morning and welcome to the Mike Graham Show. And I am Mike Graham. It's coming up to 7 o'clock. It's Wednesday, the 11th of February, and we have got one heck of a show for you. There's all the international clocks. Funnily enough, they all say the same thing. Because we're here in London. We're not in Switzerland, we're not in Gstad, we're not in Tokyo, although we've got a lot of listeners in Tokyo, apparently. I got loads of messages yesterday from people all over Japan, actually, telling us that they were enjoying listening to the show. We've got listeners in Melbourne, we've got listeners in the United States of America. The good news is this morning, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got loads and loads of it, is that Super Chats are back. So let's say a very, very good morning to Cindy Smith, 639, who sent us one. Please bring back the chat so that it's visible on the TV screen. Well, there you are. Your wish is my command. Pooch has sorted it all out. We've had a couple of days where we were reorganising our sort of, financial setup with the YouTube channel. And so for a couple of days, we couldn't take any Super Chats, but they're back. So feel free to send us Super Chats all the way through the show, and you'll get your name read out on the screen as well as by me personally. Simon has sent his first one in for 10 quid. Thank you very much indeed, Simon. It all helps to build the channel. It all helps to make the channel more recognisable and more visible for everybody, because we're now up to nearly 6.7 million views. We've got 134,000 subscribers now, so keep us going, and we'll bring you all the news that is fit to print. Now, what we should be doing... Oh, Laura's just messaged me saying watching from Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Well, I wonder if Prince William has got us on, because he's over there at the moment, seeing Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. So we'll be talking about the royal family this morning, because Stephen Barrett is here as well, going to look through the papers with us. Still an awful lot of stories about Keir Starmer clinging on for grim death, talking about how he's a working class man, comes from a working class background. My father was a toolmaker. I'm not going to give up. A couple of big stories to mention to you as well on all the front pages, because many of them are around about the situation with Starmer. Mandelson investigation will go back to the Blair era, says page 1 of the Times. Starmer's ex-number 10 spin doctor loses the whip. This is yet another guy, Lord Doyle, who's in the House of Lords, who was an aide to Keir Starmer, apparently forgot to declare the fact that he was good friends with a paedophile. Marvellous, isn't it? Starmer too weak to sack Streeting, is what it says on the front page of the Financial Times. Streeting still wants Starmer out. Front page of The Guardian, so the plots still continue. Prime Minister did, in fact, see proof of the Epstein friendship with Peter Mandelson. So Keir Starmer, and I think this is a big story, it's on the front page of The Telegraph, but it's not the main story. Keir Starmer deliberately said and laid out that he didn't have any clue about the level of the friendship between Peter Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein. Well, according to the Daily Telegraph, he absolutely did, because they wrote about it and it was shown to him that they wrote about it. So really, he was lying once again, yet again. And despite the fact that he seems to be clinging on for dear life, as I say, he is still very much in the firing line, and he's still, nobody believes he's going to still be in a position as Prime Minister past May. And I think after those elections and he gets completely routed, that will be the end of him. A couple of other stories going on as well. Terror police called in after stabbing of boys at school. This is on the front page of the Times and the Daily Mail. Teen held for terror stabbing. Apparently a boy of 13 launched a stabbing rampage in a school yesterday in London, leaving 2 children fighting for their lives in a suspected terror attack. Apparently in the middle of a classroom just before lunch, a teenager who didn't go to the school pulled out a knife, stabbed a 13-year-old boy in the neck and the back while shouting "Allahu Akbar." So the terror police are involved, so it looks, I'm afraid, as if it's another terror attack, but this time by a 13-year-old child. Absolutely extraordinary. Lots of other stories to talk about as well, including an Olympic star who's confessed to cheating after he won a medal over in the Winter Olympics. The Winter Olympics is still the most boring thing alive going on at the moment. And apparently Team GB still haven't won any medals. So that's good, isn't it? And of course, another story is about worklessness. The Tesco boss has warned the government that they're worried, Tesco's is particularly worried that there's going to be a whole generation of people created, children, teenagers, who will never ever work because there simply aren't any jobs. Unbelievable. Let's say a very good morning to Stephen Barrett, who is, of course, our favourite barrister, a man who knows the answer to an awful lot of questions. Stephen, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Mike. And I'm glad to know that you're international because they tried to make me go to Riyadh, but I said no, no, no.
Very good. I like it. Fantastic stuff. Now, the one story I haven't mentioned yet, because we haven't quite got around to it, but I want your view on it, is the whole situation with the King, Andrew, the royal family. I mean, I'm starting to hear people saying, you know, is this so serious now in the royal family? We had a royal author on yesterday, Andrew. What was his last name? Andrew Lowney, who said some extraordinary things, including that he believes very firmly, and he's a very credible source, that there are actually women buried on royal land, royal estates, and he said. He wrote about it in his book. It was taken out because people didn't believe him. And he said that there are people now who are investigating this stuff and stuff that's appearing in the Epstein files. And I know it sounds mad, right? And this is why I'm asking you about it. But everything is almost on the table now. Almost anything is possible.
We're living through a period in which truly outrageous things have occurred. So it's perfectly natural that we'll get very suspicious and that we will consider all types of things which previously we would have thought absolutely inconceivable will be considered. In my own view, the House of Windsor is not that dramatic. If it has one great ability, one great benefit to the nation, it's actually how connected it is to ordinary people. That comes through Her Majesty the Queen Mother was the best at this. She really grounded their feet back in reality. I don't know, you will remember, Mike, the Tupperware and the barbecue documentary that ITV did, and the fact that they are actually quite grounded in normality. Now, Prince Andrew may very well be, or the man previously known as Prince Andrew, may well be an absolute wrong 'un. But that, I think, does not damn the House of Windsor. And there are many things. There are many faults I see in the current king, but he won't. Let's be perfectly frank. He's not going to be with us terribly long. That's just natural. But I don't consider that the current king is that level of wrong, and I'd be very surprised at that. And we have the line of succession very secure. And if there was any doubts about William, which I don't think there are, we've got Kate.
Yes, absolutely right. And I agree with everything you've just said. However, I suppose the technical and maybe legal ramifications of what the palace came out with yesterday, which is, you know, we're willing to talk to the police and to help them with their inquiries, as it were. A lot of people reacted to that and said, well, is that really enough? I mean, because surely if the royal family is indicating that they would be willing to be spoken to by the police and perhaps take part in an interview process, does that put the king in some kind of difficult position? Does it mean that we could be leading to a place where he has to step down at some point, not because of anything he's done, but just because of the sort of the clamour surrounding it?
Well, if it does, then, you know, we've got the succession is secure. And the other thing I like to point out, because there was a ridiculous interview yesterday by a Republican claiming that if you know, monarchy doesn't work because we could have got Andrew on the throne, and that's simply not true. I want to reassure everybody: we control through Parliament. We control the line of succession. We control who wears the crown. We are absolutely in control of that. Now, we don't have elections for it, and we don't mess around with it willy-nilly, you know, just because. But if necessary, as it arises from time to time, we will control who carries the crown. And the most important thing is not who carries it, but that we have the crown. It's a very important constitutional unit. It's more important than the head that wears it, and it's part of how our country functions. So I didn't take the statement by the palace to mean that, but if others have, then it's the palace's fault, and that's the palace being a bit clunky. I took it to mean that the palace was signalling that it doesn't consider itself to be above the law, which of course it is not. Right. And none of the individuals in the royal family, absolutely none of the individuals in the royal family, are above the law. Everybody in this country is subject to law, even, by the way, the Prime Minister, although he doesn't seem to think so.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to him in a second. By the way, I noticed that you and I are wearing very similar ties today. I don't know if that's by design, but I'm quite enjoying it.
I spotted that. God's will.
Let's talk a bit about the Republic organisation, though, as well, because, you know, there's been people heckling the king, which I think is awful, over the past few days when he's been going out. And I know we live in a democracy, and you'll feel free to heckle whoever you like. But the impression given, and I think particularly to people watching from abroad, shall we say, is that, there's a lot of people in Britain who don't like the monarchy. I don't think that's true, because basically this is an organisation called Republic who are sending people out deliberately to heckle the king, because that's what they do.
Yes. Well, I think we all need to grow up a bit about media and about messaging.
Yeah.
Because if you're rich enough to pay 100 activists, you can make an awful lot of noise in our country, but there's still only 100 paid activists.
Yeah.
You know, we really need to be much more grown up, much more mature about all of this. When Israel struck back against Iran, when Iran was attacking Israel, thousands of pro-Scottish independence Twitter accounts went silent,
right,
because they were never real. They were never Scottish people calling for independence. They were Iranian bots trying to influence our country and the public messaging. And we really need to be much more secure in our minds and much less influenced by 100 paid activists, whatever the topic is.
Yeah.
I don't really care. We just need to, and I think most of us are. I think I don't buy into this lefty drivel that the public are manipulated by the press and the public only think what the newspapers tell them. I go down the pub, and the public have an innate sense of right and wrong, an innate sense of what they feel is good and what they feel is bad. The problem at the moment is that the innate sense is that Britain is broken.
Yes, and I mean, in many ways it is, but whether it's irrevocable is another matter. And I guess, you know, that's where the conversations will go eventually. You know, there are those who say, yes, we've got some problems, and I'm one of them. But they're not irreparable. You know, I think we can get the country back to where it needs to be. John has sent us a super chat, by the way. For those of you who are watching, we haven't had them for a couple of days. We've got them back now. Stephen looks like he's ready to go to school. I think that's a compliment from John to Stephen, who, you know, you're wearing a kind of a school uniform, I guess is what he's saying.
Well, that's very kind. I'm dressed like this because, and I'll put a jacket on before I go out, because I've been invited to a dinner and the dress is business attire.
Yeah.
Now, I often talk about this. I don't really know what business attire is. It doesn't say suit, Mike, and I am notoriously slovenly, let's put it that way, but I'm notoriously dressed down, and so if it doesn't say suit, I'm not wearing a suit, and I consider this business attire, and if anybody thinks it's not business attire, they can let you know.
I'm sure, absolutely right. Let's talk about Keir Starmer. We've got a couple of clips for you. First one from yesterday. I'm finding him even more irritating this week than I normally do. You know, we thought a couple of days ago he was done for, but like a sort of Klingon, he refuses to be moved. Although The Guardian this morning is saying that Wes Streeting has still not given up on getting him out, and they seem to have fallen out quite badly. But have a look at this. This is Keir Starmer saying, "I will not walk away."
There are some people in recent days who say the Labour government should have a different fight, a fight with itself, instead of a fight for the millions of people who need us to fight for them. And I say to them, I will never walk away from the mandate I was given to change this country. I will never walk away from the people that I am charged with fighting for. And I will never walk away from the country that I love. And that is the country who I truly believe we are, a compassionate, reasonable, live and let live country, a diverse country, where given half the chance, we'll help each other out. That is who we are as a country, and I want to serve every single part of that country, the country that I love. But the fight coming up in politics, the real fight, is not in the Labour Party. It's with the right-wing politics that challenges that, the politics of reform, the politics of divide, 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 grievance, 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 that will tear our country apart. That is the fight that we are in. And I will be in that fight as long as I have breath in my body.
As long as I have breath in my body. I mean, he's so awful. Pooch just said to me, it looks like he's standing there in that room with Jack Nicholson from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. They're all sort of sitting there in a catatonic state, completely and utterly hypnotised by his boringness, you know. He's so bad at speaking. Just awful. You're a barrister. I say this to people all the time. Most barristers I know are pretty erudite individuals. They're pretty good at speaking. One of the things that the skills that they have acquired is to get up in front of a court and a judge and possibly a jury and make a case. He doesn't seem to be able to do any of that.
No, it's almost as though he achieved everything in life despite having no merit on the basis that he was a Labour crony.
Yes.
I mean, I couldn't possibly comment on that, but it's almost as though he's just been gifted things and has never actually earned them.
Right.
But I do think it's funny, Mike, because he says that he won't walk away from a country that he loves, but he left China last week. So I don't get it at all. What are you on about?
Brilliant. Well, I've got another super chat here from Leon who says, look how miserable the people in that room are with that vile Starmer. He says he loves the country whilst giving territory away and trying to lock up patriotic military members, which is also true. I mean, he doesn't look as if he's a man that loves his country. He's constantly attacking it and trying to tear it down.
Well, he doesn't love his country. He absolutely doesn't love his country. You don't fight to prosecute veterans for things they allegedly did 50 years ago,
right,
because you love your country. You don't crash the economy. You don't kill pubs if you love if you love this country, then you help pubs,
right,
to be perfectly honest. So this is a man who I find him absolutely perverse, and it's probably why you find him irritating, Mike. But everything he says is the opposite of what he does.
Yes.
And we are constantly told how noble he is, how much he allegedly cares for us. Yet he's absolutely trashing the place.
Right.
Trashing it. And his only desperate hope is to put us back under the control of Europe. Not to rejoin the EU, which I think you could argue for, and I'd like to, if people want it, then by all means argue for it.
Yeah.
But to simply put us under their control without joining.
Right.
To subjugate us to their control. He wants to subjugate us to Mauritius. Oh, and by the way, Mike, I don't know if you and your listeners and viewers know, but we've actually been invaded by the Maldives, because in all of the weakness over the Chagos Islands, they've simply decided to invade parts of the Chagos Islands and claim them. And we have done absolutely nothing. I mean, nothing. It's equivalent to the Falklands and Mrs. Thatcher just doing nothing. But this is because he is a dead prime minister. He's a dead prime minister walking. He is a zombie man. He is a corpse prime minister. And we are just waiting till he goes. Nothing is going to happen in this country. We actually can't govern ourselves until that man goes.
That's right. There is currently no government in this country because he doesn't have the authority over his own cabinet. He doesn't have the authority over his own parliament. He doesn't have the authority over his own party. He can't actually run Downing Street now because he's lost most of his people. See, they advertised yesterday. I was thinking of applying just for a laugh. They advertised yesterday for a new media advisor. You know, a bit late for that.
I really wouldn't apply, Mike. You'll be gone in a week.
I mean, well, the thing is, I don't have any friends who are paedophiles, so I can't join the Labour government at the moment. So I'm sorry about that.
It's such a problem, isn't it? But this cannot continue. And what's happening, or what seems to be happening, is that the Labour Party has convinced itself that he can last until May because that would be terribly convenient for them. But I'm sorry, our country doesn't run itself that way. The Constitution doesn't work that way. He's dead now. He's dead today. He'll be dead in 3 hours. He'll be dead in 4 hours. He'll be dead in 5 hours. He'll be dead tomorrow morning. You have to get rid of him. And if Wes Streeting had any cojones at all, he'd simply resign.
Yes.
Because at least that would pressure him to go.
Yes. I mean, and until somebody makes that move and makes that leap, he will be a continually zombie prime minister. That is true. Yesterday, though, a couple of things happened which in any other world would have finished him off, right? One of his former communications chiefs lost the Labour whip over his past campaigning for a paedophile. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is Matthew Doyle, who's now Lord Doyle, sits in the Lords. He has a connection to a former Labour councillor called Sean Morton, who was charged with possession and distribution of indecent images of children in December 2016 and suspended by Labour, right? This guy, Lord Doyle, who also worked for Tony Blair's government, campaigned for him the following May right, after he was found guilty of possession of these images, when he ran as an independent in local elections in Scotland. I mean, what's wrong with these people?
And I'd just like to point out, Mike, that I knew all of this. I knew absolutely all the backstory of Doyle before Keir Starmer made him a lord. So if I knew it, then Keir Starmer really should have known it, because I don't have magic powers. You know, I'm not special. This is known information, and yet Keir Starmer made him a lord. And then yesterday, in order to have some form of damage control, they took the whip away. Well, this is just pathetic. You made him a lord. You made him a noble peer of the realm for life. You did this knowing that he's a busy mate of a paedophile. You've done it once. Now you've done it twice. This is pathetic. And the other thing to note about Keir Starmer that might, again, things are getting lost in the wash because the Prime Minister is so bad.
Yeah.
But he had a private meeting with Palantir, who are this company that do all the digital ID and the snooping. And that wasn't declared. No minutes were taken. And then he gave them a contract for £240 million. That is enough to bring down a Prime Minister. So
yes.
It really is like watching a zombie march on, losing limbs, shot in the head repeatedly. This is not a Prime Minister. This is a joke. And the Labour Party itself now is absolutely, in hock for this. They are to blame for this. The Labour Party expelled Rosie Duffield, as far as I'm concerned, one of their most noble and most able MPs, and yet they're keeping Keir Starmer. Right. Yes. Well, then Labour Party, in the first past the post system, which we have, no political party has a right to exist. And at the moment, you need to die off. The entire party needs to go.
And while we're on the subject of Palantir, guess whose lobbying firm advised Palantir and the government in order to get that deal done over the line?
Well, it was Mandelson's.
It was.
So it's this is just corrupt. I think we need a criminal investigation into that. Yeah. And what I will say is that as a country, we've become very weak because we haven't. If I'd said 5 years ago, Mike, on the telly or on the radio, that we needed a police investigation into the government, everybody would have laughed or said that that's hysterical. Right. I would have got accused of conspiracy theories. But if you are a country that doesn't have serious laws about corruption, then you will have corruption. It's that simple. If I don't feed my dogs anti-flea tablets, they will get fleas. Okay, that's just what happens. It's just corruption is human nature. It's unavoidable. For thousands of years, humans have been what humans are. And we are a country that does not have effective anti-corruption laws. So do you know what we're going to have when we lift up that rug? There's going to be an awful lot of mess underneath it.
I bet there is. And the other story that is kind of slipping through the net at the moment is the one that came out sort of middle of the afternoon yesterday, which is that Keir Starmer was shown evidence of Lord Mandelson's close friendship with Jeffrey Epstein before appointing him as US ambassador. Civil servants included a Daily Telegraph article in their due diligence dossier, which was sent to the Prime Minister in late 2024. So not only was he shown it, but it was in the public domain in any event. And he lied about that and said that he never saw anything like that, when in fact he clearly did. So, I mean, that's enough to get rid of him, isn't it?
Yes. That again is another reason why he should go. But in many ways, it's exposing Keir Starmer as a very analog politician. So he's like the fifth photocopy of Tony Blair. Right. And he's clearly getting advice from that ancien regime. But they aren't really alive to how the world works now. They aren't really alive to the fact that social media, is a real thing. They aren't alive to the fact that we're actually going to know things. We're not just going to know what Alistair Campbell spins to us. We're actually going to know other things, and we're going to find out the truth. And the fact is, if you have Google, because Tony Blair is the pre-Google Prime Minister.
Yes.
But if you had Google, you could find everything you needed to know on Peter Mandelson. Yeah. And we've got Google. So we all knew that Peter Mandelson was absolutely dodgy as they come. And Keir Starmer voluntarily overrode the advice. And I stand by that, because that's an assertion of fact, Mike, but I think we've got enough circumstantial evidence to support that. And we're about to get substantive evidence, which I think will support that. I think the Telegraph article proves that. He overrode advice to not appoint Mandelson and appointed Mandelson. He's got to go over any of these things. It's getting boring now. How many headshots can one man take?
I know.
You know, he's just a joke of a man. There's a theory online that he has a sort of humiliation fetish. I mean, that's the only way to understand why he still goes off. Why are you going on? The man's incredibly wealthy, and he's one of the few of us in this country, for all his talk about caring about the working class, he's got his own statutory pension. I mean, why is he still there? Just go to the Caribbean, go and have fun. He's got a very beautiful wife. Go and take her to the Caribbean and have fun. Stop trying to be prime minister, because you're not prime minister. You've wrecked the country, and you are an absolute moral sewer.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think you're getting a round of applause from producer Pooch there. And also, I think the fact that he is still walking around despite taking all these headshots is because his head is his least vulnerable area. There's nothing in it, and it doesn't actually matter if he's got a brain working up there. But let's have a look, because I think you mentioned the dreaded working class phrase. We've got him talking about that yet again from yesterday. Have a look.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
No? No, we haven't got that. Never mind. Not to worry. Let's talk about the other big story on the front pages this morning, and this is really worrying. A terror stabbing of two boys, 12 and 13, in a classroom in North London. In the middle of a classroom, just before lunch, a teenager aged 13 pulled out a knife, stabbed a 13-year-old boy in the neck and back while shouting, "Allahu Akbar."
This is just disgraceful. Our children must be safe, Mike.
Yeah.
We're not a country if our children are not safe. And this is, I mean, we're becoming sort of inured. So that means that we're becoming used to atrocity. And back when I was young, when I was just a young man, a child stabbing another child would be headline news for weeks.
Yeah.
This is going to be forgotten very quickly, because it just keeps happening. But we have made our country unsafe, and we need to make our country safe. And that's just got to happen. I've got a young child. I don't want to be in absolute terror about the safety of my child. But all of us now are. And this is the danger that we put ourselves in. We cannot tie ourselves up in knots worrying about a supposed Islamophobia definition and worrying about supposed Islamophobia if people are yelling Allahu Akbar and stabbing our kids. Okay, that's just not how this goes. You don't get to have some sort of special protection if people are yelling Allahu Akbar and stabbing children. We need to stop people yelling Allahu Akbar and stabbing children. I don't know how to make this clearer or more simple. We need to stop people yelling Allahu Akbar in our society and stabbing children by any means necessary, frankly. Yes. By any means necessary. It's like a war. When we were at war with Germany, we didn't let Germans wander around the country and shoot people yelling Heil Hitler. And we should not let anybody wander around our country stabbing children and yelling Allahu Akbar. It's the same thing. It's evil, and it must be stopped.
And also it's happening because people are frightened of addressing it, right? On the other hand, we've got another story today about, this time I think it's Manchester Foundation Trust. They're going to be my planks of the day, because they're advertising, like another trust was at the weekend, for some nurse to come in and help cousins get married and help talk to them about how they can best kind of, sanctify all of that and make it happen. And you're kind of going, why is nobody standing outside the hospital saying, this is a bad idea, this is likely to lead to birth defects, because that's what it does, and it is also not a British cultural thing, so it shouldn't be happening?
No, it shouldn't be happening. But we used to ban current cousin marriage through the church.
Yeah.
And then when all marriages had to go through the church, that's an effective ban. What then happens is all marriages don't have to go through the church, and all of a sudden we don't have an effective ban on cousin marriage. We should have noticed that. We should have picked that ball up at the time. That's one of those things in life when you're running a society. We dropped a ball and we accidentally made it possible and legal to have cousin marriage. But that ball needs to be picked back up again, and we need to ban cousin marriage because it's not fair on those children. It's a form of abuse of those children. They are born, with a high risk of being very, very damaged. And that itself is absolutely wrong. But it goes back to this basic principle, Mike. If everybody in 1940 was too scared to be called Germanophobic, we wouldn't have been able to fight the war. Okay. And at the moment, I'm afraid we are in a terrible position that is akin to a war. It is akin to a war. It is an emergency. It is a crisis. I think the Civil Contingencies Act has already been triggered years ago. And I think we're just trying to ignore it. But that is really absolutely ridiculous. It's like having a flood in your house and just moving up the floor and hoping the water goes away.
Yeah.
We have to tackle this. We have to fix our society. The one thing the Prime Minister said, which is true, is that we are a diverse society. And I do think we ought to be proud of that. But there are lots of us who have got all sorts of minor cultural differences. But we also need to talk about cultural similarity. Okay. And a basic cultural similarity is that you don't yell some political slogan or political/religious slogan and then stab a kid. Okay,
Right.
that's a basis. So I've got Sikh friends, I've got Jewish friends, I've got Muslim friends, I've got all sorts of friends. And the similarity between them and me is that we don't yell slogans and stab a child. But if there are people in our society who do, then we need to deal with them now.
Yes, exactly right. And you'd have to look into this case, and obviously there will be legal aspects to it that we can't discuss at the moment because it's an ongoing case. However, you know, the circumstances under which that 13-year-old learned how to do that need to be looked at. And his parents need to be looked at, and his home situation needs to be looked at, whatever it is.
They do. They won't be, but they do need to be looked at. I'm always alive to the legal issues, and I'm very, very conscious of the Contempt of Court Act. One of the weird, I mean, it sounds perverse to say it, but benefits of this situation is that because it's a child, they're not being named, they're not being identified. So you can't prejudice a child against you can't prejudice a trial against a non-identified individual because you just can't.
Right.
The jurors won't know that anything we're talking about. So we actually can talk about this one a bit more freely than we can talk about quite a lot of things, even though I do always take the law very seriously. And I believe in the presumption of innocence. But we simply cannot be a country where this keeps happening. We know this is not the last outrage. We know this in our bones. Look inside. Ask yourself, is this the last atrocity that will be committed against British children?
Yeah.
And the answer is no.
Right.
So we have to deal with this. We just have to deal with it.
And also, as soon as I heard what had happened yesterday, my first thought was, is it terror related? And of course, you know, the police are investigating it as if it is. So shocking story. Finally, I just want to run this past you. There's a story doing the rounds about a guy who was going to get his hair cut if Manchester United won 5 games in a row. Last night, they managed to just draw with West Ham United. So this guy, Frank Illett, I think his name is, otherwise known as the United Strand, is going to have to grow his hair now for another 5 games. So we've got a poll which says, what would you be prepared to go 492 days without? Or possibly 493 days even. A haircut, sex, cutting your nails, or alcohol? Which is it?
Well, for me, it's easy, Mike. I think cutting your hair is a deeply eccentric thing to do. I don't know why people bother doing it. So I'll stick with my hair. I've actually trimmed mine recently. So otherwise it would be, you know, I really would be Rapunzel. But there's nothing wrong with letting your hair grow a little bit. I think we get a lot of these things from the Romans, and they always wanted everybody to be military ready, and men of fighting age needed to be military ready and military prepared. So they needed short hair, because the one thing I will say is that nobody in the military should have hair like mine, because they'll die in 2 seconds. You lose peripheral vision, you lose all sorts of, it just doesn't work. So short hair in the military makes an awful lot of practical, pragmatic sense. I think I'm probably past fighting, although actually I probably should say, and I would like to make it clear, if my country or our children were at risk, I would fight, even if I'd be completely useless. I can at least be cannon fodder, you know, because we must stand up, we must protect our values, and we must be willing to sacrifice. And men in particular must protect women and children. That is, as far as I'm concerned, the function of being a man, which I'm very proud to have reclaimed. But no, I don't mind having ridiculous long hair, and I'd carry on doing that if necessary for all these days. That gentleman is part of the great tradition combination of British, or dare I even say English, eccentricity.
Yes.
And long may it continue. Long
Absolutely
may
right.
we be different and a little bit odd. Long may we be the people of Boaty McBoatface.
Yes, indeed. And you might not be surprised to hear that the viewers actually agree with you. Most people, 38% of them, say going without a haircut would be no problem at all. It's coming second is alcohol, 31%. Third, sex, 22%. And 9%, cutting your nails. I said to Pooch, I said I wouldn't worry about cutting my nails because you can just chew them, can't you?
Well, no, I cut mine, and actually, I'm probably with that. I really don't like having long nails. It's one thing that it does drive me a bit mad if they go a bit too long.
Right.
You do want to, so for all my mad hair, my nails are always trimmed.
Very, very, very interesting. Fantastic. Stephen, great to see you as ever. Thank you very much indeed. Stephen Barrett, barrister extraordinaire, long-haired barrister extraordinaire, it has to be said. Coming up, we've got loads more to do. We've got Nick Buckley later. We've got William Clouston. And we've got Ralph Schulhammer. Coming next, Chris Rose is in the studio with us here in London, which we'll get to very shortly. Before we do that, I think we've now got, have we got the Keir Starmer clip on him talking about being working class?
I'm in that cabinet as Prime Minister, having come from a working class background, to be Prime Minister of this country. But that's the exception. That is not the rule. Even within my own family, my brother, who died last year, he had difficulties learning when he was growing up. He spent his adult life wandering from job to job in virtual poverty.
Well, why didn't you give him some money then? You know, you're pretty well off. You live in Islington. You've got a big house. You've got a big, well-paid job. Why is your brother walking around in poverty? And why is he talking about his dead brother? The man has no shame at all, does he? Absolutely awful. Anyway, what have we got to do now? It's the news, isn't it? With Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Oh, brilliant Britain. It's February 11th, and we've got another glorious day of sunshine and optimism. Here's your summary of today's headlines. Keir Starmer is still clinging to power like a limpet on a wet rock after that hilarious failed coup attempt. Yesterday's drama? Epic. Today? He's united the cabinet, so everything's fine. No Epstein fallout, no Mandelson mess, just pure leadership vibes. Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch is out there screaming that Labour's taxes are a shameful assault on high streets, because nothing says saving the economy like another round of business bashing. The weather? Still raining. Every single day in 2026 so far. Flood warnings, soggy shoes, and Brits muttering typical while pretending it's character building. NHS productivity plan? We're apparently smashing targets. 2% improvement, folks. So expect shorter waiting lists any century now. School stabbing in London. A teen arrested after knifing 2 boys. Knife crime epidemic? Shocking. Never seen that before. Defence Secretary John Healey is off to Norway promising to double troops there to deter Putin because nothing screams Arctic security like sending more lads to freeze in the snow. And Prince Andrew, still the gift that keeps on giving. Polls say most Brits want the king to make him testify on Epstein. Royal family crisis. What a surprise. Business as usual. There you have it. Taxes up, rain down, politics chaotic, and the sun still refusing to show its face. Classic UK Wednesday. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Thank you very much, Edward Hughes there with the news. The Super Chats are back, by the way, so let's run through a few of them. One from Jane, who says, loving the show, guys. Thank you very much indeed for that. One from Canastria. Kemi should table a vote of no confidence. The 14 days to reform a government would pile the pressure on and expose the roaches in the Labour Party. Well, it feels like something should happen, shouldn't it? We're going to talk to Chris Rose in a moment about that. Cindy Smith says, can I be your sidekick on your show? Well, I think you're quite a long way away, Cindy, but you can certainly be my virtual sidekick. I think she's in America. Make a super channel, Mike. 7 to 11 a.m. for you. Dan Wharton, 11 to 1. Katie Hopkins, 1 to 4. Connor Tomlinson, 4 to 8. Mike, make it happen. I saw Connor last night, actually, because he and I have had a few words in the past, and I sort of went up to him and just said hello, shook hands with him and said, don't worry about it. So we're all good. One from Voice for England. The leadership that will oust Labour and undo Tony Blair's legacy with courage will be in power for a generation. P.S. Mike and Steve look suave today. Well, very kind, yeah, absolutely. Well, if you think I look suave, wait till you see the man to my left, who's Chris Rose. Chris, very good morning to you. Nice to see you. Welcome to the new studio. We're settling in well, loving it. We've got lots going on, loads of stories to talk about. I guess we should kick off with Starmer, really, because it's still all about Starmer on many of the front pages. It looks like Wes Streeting is still not happy. According to the front page of The Guardian, he still wants to basically remove Starmer from the job. He hasn't given up yet. Front page of The Times says the Mandelson investigation will go back to the Blair era. Quarter of a century of Epstein records are going to be searched. I mean, I just don't know what it's going to take to get rid of Keir Starmer.
I know, he's not going to go easily.
He's not.
You know, this is a man who repeatedly called for Boris Johnson to resign over Partygate and Chris Pincher affair.
Yeah.
He read out the 7 Nolan principles. He went on about being whiter than white in opposition. And now in government, it turns out his government is rotten to the core.
Yeah.
You know, we've had scandal after scandal after scandal and so on. And he said chaos with the Tories or stability with Labour.
Yeah.
And it's turned out to be a continuation of even more chaos.
Yeah.
You know, if this was happening under a Tory government, he'd be first off the gate to say, you know, they should resign.
Yeah.
But when he's in the person that's actually, you know, the culprit of it, all of a sudden he's letting everybody else resign. It's just had about 3 people so far who've resigned, but he himself has said, you know, the book doesn't stop with me, apparently. Right. He's going to let it go on and on and on. And how many more people are going to have to resign before he says, you know what? I was actually responsible for appointing Peter Mandelson, and they knew about the stuff.
And it's been revealed in the Telegraph late yesterday and now in the paper today that he actually did see evidence because the Daily Telegraph wrote about it. It's not like a secret, you know. It wasn't like he needed MI5 to suddenly come in, hush, hush, and go, here's some special secret documents. It was in the bleeding papers.
It was. Yeah, exactly. So he admitted it. I mean, that was a smart move by Kemi, making him admit it in the Parliament. So there is nowhere for him to really hide anymore.
Yeah.
He just has to take responsibility and actually just go.
Yeah.
Because frankly, his ratings are in the toilet. Nobody really likes him.
Well, he's the most unpopular Prime Minister ever, isn't he now?
Yes, he
I
pretty
mean,
much is.
without any shadow of a doubt. And the thing that's interesting as well, I was at a do last night at the New Culture Forum and we were talking about it. And it's almost as though Labour have kind of said to him, would you mind hanging around until we get slaughtered at the May elections, and then we can blame you, and then you can go? But I can't believe that's the scenario. I mean, does that make sense to you?
It would, in a way, like a scenario where just saying, oh, well, that's all to do with Keir Starmer. We can put in a new leader now, where they can say, oh, we're fresh, and you can give us another chance. But it won't work.
No.
Frankly, the whole party, the whole cabinet is toxic.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody who would lead them after Keir Starmer would be any better.
No.
If it was up to me, I just think we just need an early general election.
Yeah.
Just to replace them, because frankly, both the Tories and Labour have let us down. We need a new fresh start, anyway.
Well, this is the other problem for Wes Streeting. You know, he came out the other day and revealed some of the rather strange and over-familiar messages that he'd sent to backwards and forwards to Peter Mandelson with little kisses on them all, saying, you know, and he was looking very, very uncomfortable when he was talking to Beth Rigby, and I wonder whether, you know, he wants to try and get out in front of it all because there's something bad coming down the pipe, you know, because this investigation, as it says in the Times, is going to go all the way back to the days of Tony Blair, so all the way back to sort of 2007, 8, 9. It's going to go on forever. You know, we're never going to see a resolution to it, are we?
No, we aren't. And it'd be quite funny to see if the person, the architect behind New Labour, actually causes New Labour to actually collapse, which would be Peter Mandelson.
Yes.
Because I do think people
that would be funny.
It would be. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, people like Wes Streeting, I do think that they, you know, will also be guilty of a lot more when it's revealed.
Yeah.
I do think others as well from the cabinet will be.
Yeah.
So that's why replacing Keir Starmer won't be the simple solution, because I do think they're all, you know, probably just as bad as each other, frankly.
And they all must have known. I mean, according to this piece in the Times, right, the scale of the Cabinet Office trawl highlights the extent of the potential fallout from the Mandelson scandal, including encompassing senior figures from successive Labour governments. Mandelson's relationship with Epstein goes back decades. In May 2002, he brokered a meeting between Blair and Epstein. Mandelson had resigned as Northern Ireland Secretary the previous year, but remained close to the Prime Minister. So this also tells you that whenever Mandelson got kicked out of the Cabinet before, he didn't actually go anywhere. He just moved into the next office and sat there and continued to have a massive role, right? He also emailed Jonathan Powell, who was Blair's chief of staff, highlighting the fact that Bill Clinton had recently told Blair he wanted to introduce his travelling friend Epstein. So, of course, Jonathan Powell, again, still very much involved.
Yeah.
He was the guy that went to the Chagos Islands and negotiated the sell-off of the Chagos Islands to Mauritius. You know, these people are sort of like tentacles everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's quite weird because when they're not busy covering up for themselves, they're busy off, selling off Britain. They're not doing anything good for the British people.
Right.
So I just think, why are they sticking around? Nobody really wants them anymore.
No.
They're doing stuff that wasn't in their party manifesto.
Have they actually done anything that was in their party manifesto? I'm not sure they have, really.
Because I think I probably haven't. I mean,
they said they weren't going to put up taxes, then they did.
Yeah.
Then they said they wouldn't put up taxes again, and then they did. I mean, it's just one lie after another.
It pretty much is. It's just lie after lie after lie. In fact, I would want to go back and compare what was in their manifesto and see what they've actually done and how much they have done that wasn't actually in their manifesto.
Right.
Because I think it would be very striking, to be
Yes.
honest with you. So I just think the sooner that they go, certainly after May, the results will be so bad. I mean, all you have to do is look at some of the council ward elections, and you can see a massive drop for Labour.
Yeah.
Like there was one in Wales that was just last night, and they dropped by like 4-6%.
Really?
And it's really bad. I mean, it's extinction level. I think
Right.
they're possibly just worse than the Tories in terms of
Also,
surviving.
and what's coming down the road for an awful lot of small business owners, and I'm hearing a lot of them talking at the moment as well about the business rates going up, about their companies just shutting up shop and saying we just can't do it anymore. The front page of the Express today has got Kemi Badenoch accusing Labour of a shameful assault on high streets amid warnings that small firms are going to basically face an apocalypse because endless tax rises are just forcing people to shut down.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate because I do know people who have, started small businesses. They've taken the gamble. They've taken the push. They've done something that we're supposed to encourage, which is set up businesses.
Right.
And all of a sudden they're saying that their electricity rates, their business rates, they're just unaffordable, and they're just thinking, is it worth me doing it anymore? So we're killing aspiration. People will be thinking, like younger people, well, what's the point of going out and putting up businesses, trying to create jobs, trying to create wealth back into the country when they could just go abroad and it's be easy to set up a business.
Yeah.
And I just think we should go back to the days of aspiration.
Yes.
Who's going to lead us in aspiration? Because it's certainly not this government.
No, and there are so many countries now where you can go and live, and a lot of them are offering deals like if you want to buy into a business or if you want to buy a house, that they'll let you have a visa to live there. The taxes. I mean, I know places like Malta where there's no income tax at all. Places like Italy where if you go with a certain amount of money, you'll be able to stay there. There's a great now sort of ability to move around the globe. And I think Britain is in danger of becoming like a sort of husk of a country. And I mean, we've got the Tesco boss on the front page of the Telegraph, Ashwin Prasad, Tesco's UK chief executive, basically saying economic growth is now under threat because an increasing number of people are choosing welfare over work. He was speaking at a Resolution Foundation event in which he said Britain's biggest problem coming down the pipe is worklessness, people who just can't get a job. Other people who don't want to get a job, and people who are considering never getting a job.
Yeah, no, it's really bad, especially with the removal of the 2-child benefit cap as well. It basically just makes it look like you're better off not being in work.
Yeah.
So I just think, where's the motivation to get people back into work? Who can do it. All they need is the right job, the right push.
Yeah.
And they can, excel, possibly become a manager or set up their own business. And we're just not doing that anymore.
No.
There's a big, massive brain drain that's happening in the UK, particularly onto younger people, because I know more and more are now leaving.
Yeah.
And it's not good, because what we're going to be left with, the small boat arrivals who would be taking doing the job
well,
soon.
this is it. We're importing loads of people who aren't really skilled in anything. Like we're going to be talking later. I've got a book in front of me here, which is from the New Culture Forum, Immigration to Betrayal of Britain, and it's got several different chapters written by different people, and it's all about the kind of the myth of immigration. The whole idea that supposedly we need immigration because without the immigrants we wouldn't have an NHS service, for example, or we wouldn't have people doing jobs that people in Britain don't want to do. And it's all of these myths are kind of debunked because none of that's true. Because what we're doing is importing a load of people who are going straight onto benefits.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, we've had record high immigration, but growth hasn't improved. Our economy hasn't really improved because of it.
No.
So these things have been busted in real life. We can see the results. We can compare the data. And there's certainly no relation to more immigration that will equal more growth or more better economy. It's just completely opposite, in fact, I would say.
Yeah.
Because where we're teaching the young people to get trade skills, to set up businesses, to go and create jobs, create more employment. We're just not doing that at all. So if they're leaving, who's going to replace them?
I'll tell you one of the shocking stories that I saw today, and I don't know whether you're as shocked by this as I was, but the public sector is the only growth area, right, in this country now. Do you know that the number of state school teachers earning above £125,000 a year has more than tripled in 5 years?
Oh, that's shocking, to be
No,
honest.
I mean, I'm thinking, the decent, even in London, a decent teacher's salary is about 50,000, 60,000. 125,000. 1,180 teachers were paid more than 125,000 in the last academic year. The vast majority of them in the highest income tax band will pay the additional rate of 45%. 195 teachers earned 150 grand.
And it's shocking.
Plus, I mean, what the hell's going on in the schools?
I have no idea. I mean,
Where are they finding this money from?
That's probably not even enough for them. They might start striking soon for a higher wage as well.
Yeah, I know. Let's give some more money to the NHS. Let's give some more money to the school system. Let's give some more money to the train drivers. I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? So the only place that you can actually see any kind of economic growth now is in the public sector. Public sector pay has gone up massively in the last 18 months since Labour got in. And the thing that's gone down is private sector pay.
I know, and it should be the other way around. Because I do say that private sector are more productive. We should value them a lot more than we do. I feel like sometimes there's an effort to demonise them by even parts of the government.
Yeah.
Whereas the public sector, it's like we do need to make some cuts there.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, because it is growing, but there's no more productivity from the private sector, particularly from civil servants who work from home all the time.
Right.
They're less productive. There's unnecessary jobs there. We have all these diversity managers who are on 100K. And what do they do? Nobody even knows.
No.
They don't even know themselves.
No. And nobody's actually watching them to see what they're doing, and nobody's actually supervising them to see what they're doing. They don't have to do anything. And that's the problem. I mean, it is ridiculous. Man from Kernow says, Chris Rose, another top guest. A lot of people loving the guest this week. We are having a good time this week. And Super Chats are back, by the way. I like Chris Rose. He speaks sense, says Cindy. You certainly do speak sense. How about this? How about another one? Azura Fox. Chris Rose is an awesome guest. You need to have him back on your show as a regular. Looks very sharp on screen. He does.
Thank you.
Actually, it makes me look a bit scruffy, to be fair. I think it's the hair.
No, you look very smart.
Let's talk a bit about Gorton and the by-election. The piece in the Telegraph today is quite funny because the Green Party candidate, Hannah Spencer, who I call the fake plumber, right? This is the woman who's pretended that she's been up, gutters and up ladders and fixing people's pipes and all the rest of it. Apparently, somebody's found a piece that she wrote, I think, claiming that the high street in that neck of the woods in Gorton was horrible, full of money laundering takeaways, right? She's supposed to be a left winger, so she's not kidding. So she's also said that she was pleased that she left.
Oh, right.
So that's not going to stand her in terribly good stead, is it, with the locals?
No, hopefully not. I mean, as you say, the fake plumber.
Yeah.
I mean, she may have a point about what she said about the high street businesses, but at the same time...
Yeah, but if she's a socialist, she's supposed to love immigration. She's supposed to love, lots of takeaway shops. She's supposed to love, lots of, diverse businesses in the area, isn't she?
Well, they're supposed to, but the Green Party have a habit of saying one thing and then when they meet the reality of their policies, like the co-leader of the Green Party who said, we love open borders, but they don't want the 600 migrants in their area. She protested against that. So she's just another case of it.
It's another NIMBY, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, they're saying, I'm glad I left. That's certainly got no help because that's a big, massive favour to, Matt Goodwin, who, frankly, he's been there every day. He's very robustly campaigning. He's doing very well. And then Hannah, on the other hand, who's put up fake photos of herself plastering and holding things. And anybody who's in the trade knows that that's not the way you do things anyway. Yeah. So I don't know who she's trying to fool because she's not going to fool the. Hopefully, she won't fool the local people.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I was talking to somebody up there the other day though who said that you've got to be a bit careful with some of the polling because it might well be that Labour are not doing as badly as we all think they will do. But I find that quite hard to believe. I don't really because nobody really that I've spoken to up there sees Labour coming anywhere but about third.
No, I don't either. But, there are people there who will still vote Labour no matter what. So I do think they would probably get probably no more than 20% of the vote.
Right.
I'm hoping that Labour and the Greens still split the vote and Matt Goodwin can win comfortably.
Yeah.
But we never really know because obviously the demographics there are different. I think there's a 30% Muslim population.
Yeah. It's
and
sort of
the
in
Greens
two
can
bits,
do-
isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a 30% Muslim population in one half of the constituency, and then the other half of the constituency is traditional Labour.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, we're going to talk to Nick Buckley later on in the show, so we'll find out from him what he's hearing. But what do you make of that situation? Because, of course, a lot of people saying Nick Buckley and Advance shouldn't be taking that seat on. They should basically be leaving the room for reform. I mean, I don't really have a problem with them running because I think when you start telling people not to run, that starts to sound a bit undemocratic, you know what I mean? And so it's really up to Reform, it seems to me, to win the seat outright. And as you say, Matt Goodwin's a good candidate.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
As I say, I do agree that every party should have a chance to stand. Obviously, I'm for Reform winning the by-election.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Advance don't take any votes because I know that it could possibly be very close between the Greens and Reform. So obviously, I would prefer if Advance didn't stand, but I understand that through democracy they're allowed to stand.
Yeah.
So I do. In a way, it's like Labour telling the Greens not to stand, but in these situations, the Greens are doing better than Labour.
Right.
So I'm hoping that the Advance won't really affect Reform. I think Matt is doing a very good job by himself.
Yeah.
There's been good campaign, there's been good feedback, and I think in about 2 weeks I'll be there as well, campaigning to help, so give him another boost as well.
Well, I'm glad you said that because a couple of people have sent in questions asking about you. I don't know if you can stick those back up, Pooch. One was, can you explain who Chris Rose is? No, I can't, but I think Chris Rose can explain who Chris Rose is. Why don't you explain who you are?
Oh yes, I'm a keen political commentator. I used to be a Tory. Now I'm a Reform member as well. Being more active in it and thinking maybe might stand for Reform in the near future as well.
Okay.
So the future's looking bright. I'm here just to...
I mean, it's quite exciting times for Reform, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean,
things are moving very quickly is the sense I get,
Oh, definitely. Because I think they sense that there's going to be an early general election, so they're getting ready for that. They're getting the machine ready for all that, and they're launching a lot of things that's linked to Reform as well. Like I went to the Jewish Alliance last night, which was just against anti-Semitism in the UK.
Oh, yeah.
Just to help. I mean, it shouldn't really be needed, but unfortunately we do have communities that are more anti-Semitic.
I heard there was a few hecklers at that event.
Yes, there were a few hecklers.
What's wrong with them?
I don't know.
These guys. I mean, they just seem to want to go around causing trouble.
It was quite bizarre because one of them accused Nigel Farage of saying, if my grandmother was alive, you would deport her. And I think, no, because Jewish people would actually be better off under a Reform government if they, did everything they promised to do.
Right.
The right people on the right are far less anti-Semitic than people on the far left.
That's true. Well, even the Labour government have got their own problems, haven't they?
Oh, they certainly have.
And look at Sadiq Khan in London and the way the police operate and the pro-Palestine marches that go on, which I guess are still going on. Maybe the rain's keeping them off the streets for a while, but I mean, they've been going on now for the best part of, 2.5 years?
Yeah, they have. And,
and nobody's stopping it.
No. I mean, I'd hope under Reform government they would stop these hate marches so Jews in London would feel safe again.
Yeah.
Because these are the type of marches where you can see the hate going, and if you've been to one of the marches, the Unite the Right ones, I've never ever seen much anti-Semitism on display there.
Right.
And they're the ones who usually get tarred as racist. But no, Jews can go. They've gone before. They feel perfectly safe.
Yeah.
There's a wide variety of different races that go that feel perfectly safe. But if I was to go to a hate march and I held up a sign saying, Hamas are terrorists, I would get attacked by the people there, the so-called moderate people who are there apparently. But
you might also get arrested because that's what happened to that Iranian guy, wasn't it? He's always getting arrested for holding up a Hamas a terrorist sign, which is basically stating a fact. Yeah. They've been prescribed as a terrorist organisation by the government. Yeah. How is it illegal to hold a sign up that says that?
Exactly. I mean, they should be arrested there, but they always go for the easy target, which is the other people. And they've done it with Jews as well. They told one Jewish guy, don't wear your kippah, because it might, aggravate the people there.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, isn't it? bonkers. I mean, the other story I suppose we should touch upon before we let you go, front page of the Mail, this teenage boy, 13, launching a stabbing rampage in a school in the middle of London, stabbed a 13-year-old boy in the neck and back while shouting Allahu Akbar.
I know, it's absolutely mental.
It's very, very worrying, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is. And, as I was thinking about, that show Adolescence, I was thinking, that's the frictional side of it. But this is the reality. This is the dark reality of it. And, sadly, with this Labour government, they probably talk more about adolescence than this story.
Yes.
Which is, the things that's keeping kids unsafe in schools, because it's very frightening if you're a parent to hear that. You think to yourself, could that happen to my child in school? It's the sort of thing that we shouldn't really be seeing in Britain at all. In a first world country, this should not be a story that we should be reading about at all. So we do have to think, what's gone wrong here? What's,
Yeah, how do you get to this point?
No.
Because surely, to God, you would imagine that there must have been, signals possibly, or, and apparently the boy wasn't actually an attendee at the school, so he was coming from outside.
Yeah.
But he must go to school somewhere. A lot of people are saying to me, this is why lots of our friends are now homeschooling their kids, because they don't feel that the school can guarantee their safety, which is insane.
And I don't blame them, to be honest. If I was a parent, I would do exactly the same. And, with this kid, I do wonder if it's another case of, they were reported to Prevent, and then Prevent didn't do anything. I struggle to see what Prevent actually prevents anymore.
I know. Well, I had a big row with the guy that used to be in charge of Prevent some months ago, and Lord Carlisle, his name was. And I said, it doesn't really do what it says on the tin, does it? It doesn't really prevent anything, because if it did, we wouldn't have these situations. And his argument was, well, we prevent a lot of stuff, we just don't prevent all of it. And it's like, well, sorry, that's not really working then, is it?
It's not working at all. It's not fit for purpose.
No.
I think they need a radical change. We probably just scrap it and then start a new one, fresh from scratch.
Yeah.
One that's actually working, one that's actually busting, stopping and preventing all these cases. Because, it's not good enough to just say, we don't do it all the time, because if they get it wrong, it can cost lives.
That's the problem. And that is the major problem. A lot of people loving you on the show, Chris.
Thank
a couple
you.
of people suggesting you should become an MP. Sign him up to become one, says Richard. You'd be a great asset to Farage. Chris Rose sounds good. Be hard to find on Google. Great seeing him on here. We'll raise his profile. Well, I mean, maybe he's just not looking in the right place. This man has made more sense in 15 minutes than Starmer has in 10 years. It's very true. Chris, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Good to see you. We'll have you back in again soon. Chris Rose, ladies and gentlemen. They're talking a great deal of sense. Coming up, we're going to have more common sense from William Clouston, who's head of the Social Democrat Party, of course. He's written a chapter in a book that I've got in front of me called Immigration, the Betrayal of Britain. We're going to be talking about immigration policy, what the SDP would do. We'll also talk about the state of government in this country. I think it's Prime Minister's questions today. I don't know what the questions are going to be, but surely one of them will be, when are you leaving, Prime Minister? Let's get the news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Oh, brilliant Britain. It's February 11th, and we've got another glorious day of sunshine and optimism. Here's your summary of today's headlines. Keir Starmer is still clinging to power like a limpet on a wet rock after that hilarious failed coup attempt. Yesterday's drama? Epic. Today? He's united the cabinet, so everything's fine. No Epstein fallout, no Mandelson mess, just pure leadership vibes. Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch is out there screaming that Labour's taxes are a shameful assault on high streets, because nothing says saving the economy like another round of business bashing. The weather? Still raining. Every single day in 2026 so far. Flood warnings, soggy shoes, and Brits muttering typical while pretending it's character building. NHS productivity plan? We're apparently smashing targets. 2% improvement, folks. So expect shorter waiting lists any century now. School stabbing in London. A teen arrested after knifing 2 boys. Knife crime epidemic? Shocking. Never seen that before. Defence Secretary John Healey is off to Norway, promising to double troops there to deter Putin, because nothing screams Arctic security like sending more lads to freeze in the snow. And Prince Andrew, still the gift that keeps on giving. Polls say most Brits want the king to make him testify on Epstein. Royal family crisis. What a surprise. Business as usual. There you have it. Taxes up, rain down, politics chaotic, and the sun still refusing to show its face. Classic UK Wednesday. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Yes, do remember to like and subscribe, please. We've got plenty of people watching the show. Once again, thank you very much indeed for that. The Super Chats are back, of course, so you can send us those. Like and subscribe. We've got 134,000, I think, now subscribers to the YouTube channel, so we're still keen to push that up. We're approaching 7 million views as well, which is not bad at all. And I'm delighted to say we're now joined at this message timed at just about 5 minutes past 8 in the morning by William Clouston from the SDP. William, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I saw you last night, which doesn't seem that long ago, really.
No,
you're looking remarkably fresh, considering.
Well, yeah, I went at it a bit too hard, I'd say, to be honest. Yes, but that happens sometimes.
We were both at a thing run by the New Culture Forum, which was set up by a wonderful man called Peter Whittle many years ago, who sadly passed away towards the end of last year. But his kind of memory was very much alive and well last night, wasn't it? Talking to various different pundits. This book here, which is called Immigration, The Betrayal of Britain, there's, 12 chapters, I guess?
Yeah.
One of which is written by you. All written by various different sort of luminaries from what you might describe as the right wing of society, I suppose. Rafe Heidel-Manku, who's going to be here, I think, on Friday, was speaking, and he was talking about Peter Whittle's kind of trilogy that became 4 books, which was quite amusing. This is the 4th book in a trilogy, which only the New Culture Forum could come up with. But tell us about your chapter, because Rafe was explaining last night how many of the myths that we hear from the left about immigration being required for the NHS to operate, that immigration for the economy is essential, otherwise we wouldn't be able to have enough people to do the jobs that British people might do. All debunked basically in this book.
Yeah, my chapter is about housing. As you know, I talk about housing a lot, and the SDP has great policies on trying to arrest the housing crisis. Part of the solution is to build more homes, and we think the state should do that. The state used to outbuild the private sector, and we should reinvigorate that. But the chapter really is about the omerta, the taboo, I call it, of linking the housing crisis to immigration. It's astonishing. The BBC and a lot of the mainstream media just won't mention immigration in the same breath as the housing crisis. Right. It's as if you could import millions of people into the country and they can live in thin air, Mike, apparently. They don't need houses. Right. And so what I did was I just went through the data, looked at the actual facts, and look at the pressure that household formation and immigration has on every single rental market and the capital market as well. Yes. And it's demonstrated, on the data, importing a lot of people does, it's the main driver, immigration is the main driver of housing need in the country. There's no doubt about it on the figures. So to deny it is actually dishonest.
It is. Yeah. And I've always said for years that, an awful lot of the problems that the Britain of today has is because of the number of people here. Yeah, simple as that. And hardly anybody ever mentions it. I mean, yesterday there was a piece of information I'm just trying to find here, and it was about the NHS, I think. Basically, so many people have come into the country.
750,000 registered just very recently.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find it here.
Yeah. But it's not. But the problem is, the thing I'm getting at in the chapter is the omerta, is the taboo of talking about it. I watched a 2-hour program that the BBC did on the housing crisis. I watched it. I watched every single second. I mentioned it in the book. 2 hours of it on the housing crisis. Immigration was mentioned for 45 seconds briefly. Yeah. They just won't even address it. No. Won't even go there.
No. And they'll sort of tut if you try and bring it up, won't they? I mean, here's just looking at various little statistics that I'm popping up on social media. Blexley's put this out yesterday. In the past 2 days, 541 illegals have entered the UK via 8 dinghies. I mean, I haven't even seen that written anywhere.
No.
And so
we get used to it.
Yeah. People are almost sort of bored with the story. Yeah. And they shouldn't be.
And again, but there's countless examples, and the misreporting is serious. I mean, another example I give in the book is Andrew Marr interviewing someone in a main section on Radio 4 today. The piece was about housing, exclusively about the housing crisis, talked for about a quarter of an hour about it to a Green Party politician. Didn't mention immigration once. Yeah. So apparently it doesn't matter. I'm just putting the facts out. That's what we try and do in the SDP. Yeah. Fact-based, evidence-based policy.
Well, I finally found what I was looking for. Last year, over 750,000 people registered with the GP, having just moved to the UK. That is greater than the total number of patients registered in each of the following areas: Liverpool, Newcastle, Leicester, Sheffield and Bradford.
It's pressure. Yeah.
And people again wonder why you can't get a doctor, you can't get a GP, you can't get into a hospital, you can't, get an operation.
It's insane.
It's obvious that it's because there's too many people.
It's the same in a lot of high immigration countries. Australia has had a lot of immigration in the last 5 years particularly. And basically per capita growth in a country that has everything, like it has great resources, well organised, very wealthy, and it's gone nowhere, it's gone sideways. And the housing crisis in Melbourne and Sydney, again, is caused by migration. People know it.
Yes.
So to deny it's wrong.
And I was talking to somebody last night, actually, who was saying that in Australia there's a bit of a kickback now
Massive.
from the right wing. And people are starting to drift towards more right-wing politicians because
They will.
they need to fix the problem.
Well, yeah, because they have a successive governments that just have basically an open border. I mean, look, most of the world would like to live in Australia, right?
Yeah.
So if you let them in, they will come. So it's crazy. We've got to have better policy. We've published our new policy on immigration last week, and it's got a few headlines. The biggest headline of all is the red list policy, which is a very exciting policy, which is basically, if you look at immigration, if you look at the states that provide immigrants to this country that are excessively criminal, disproportionately criminal, or welfare dependent, or economically inactive, you can put them on a red list and immigration will cease from those states.
Okay.
That's what we need.
And would that be based on a number in terms of, say, for example, if you picked, I don't know, Somalia out of nowhere, would you say, look, because we've got these statistics, whether it's on crime, whether it's on welfare, and there's already, say, I don't know, 1 million people here from Somalia, you just cut it off?
Well, I mean, if you want policy to be evidence-based, you have to look at what those migrant populations do.
Yeah.
And all we're saying is look at the data. And if Somalia is a very good example, that will almost certainly be on the red list because there's massive welfare dependency. Yeah. I've seen figures among the Somali population in London which indicate that the number of people that are economically inactive in that group, in adults, is 80%.
Wow.
So a lot of people aren't working.
Yeah.
You add crime, disproportionality on crime, again, would get you on the red list. And all we're doing is actually trying to protect. I did an interview yesterday and someone said, isn't that a bit discriminatory? And I said, well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to discriminate against
immigration
populations.
policy by necessity has to be.
It should be if you're trying to protect the home population.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in the welfare and interests of the British people.
Yeah.
And if it's shown, if it's proven that a particular group is arriving and causing excessive crime, again, look at these are what we want is proper data controlled. But you look at the crime involved in Afghan migrants. Yeah. You look at, Nuneaton recently.
There was a story yesterday.
Exactly, constantly.
A 12-year-old girl raped repeatedly, filmed while it was happening. Unbelievable sort of just depravity.
Yeah, and
and it's happening every week practically.
And if that population is disproportionately criminal, I'm sure it is. Albanians, again, I've got the data from the Home Office. Actually, some of those Albanians are probably Kosovans, but that's a separate point. But the level of disproportionality in criminal convictions among that population you'd have to look at it and say, wouldn't it be sensible to put a state like that on the red list so you just stop immigration altogether from that state?
But of course, they'd then continue to come illegally, wouldn't they?
But we've got good policies for that. I mean, the small boats crisis, we've talked about it for years. Yeah. I've promoted the Ascension Islands solution to that. It would work. I promise you it would work. No one is paying €5,000 to go to Ascension. You go straight to Ascension. That's it. Right. And you'd be detained, and then sent back to where you came from. That's it.
Well, do you know, there's an interesting story on the front page of The Guardian today, actually, which I wanted to ask you about, which is that apparently EU MEPs have now decided that they want to get an offshore sort of situation going. Let me just try and find it. I'm having a bit of trouble today. I don't know.
It has been mooted. Yeah, they've looked at that. I mean, they even looked at, I think actually the Italians were going to look at Albania of all places to
here
do
it is.
offshore.
The EU yesterday moved closer to basically creating offshore centres for migrants and asylum seekers after centre-right and far-right MEPs united to agree on tougher immigration policies. So they're actually moving in that direction in Europe because they've seen what the damage is. They've seen what the problem is.
Yeah, they will, but it's too late, for some states. I think, we should have done this years ago. But one of the other advantages of Ascension, and this is why I thought the Rwanda scheme was a publicity stunt. You're fettering, you're outsourcing your problem to another state, which is not sensible to do. Right. We control Ascension. People say, how long would it take to build? How much would it cost to build? We built Camp Bastion in Afghanistan at a current price of $94 £4 million. That's how much it cost. I would say even if it cost £1 billion to build a detention centre in Ascension, it would save you money because you're spending £5 billion a year putting people up.
Yeah. Well, we had the other story last week, which was in addition to the amount of money we waste on, putting migrants in hotels and then finding HMOs for them, is the social care cost as well. I mean, one of the figures that staggered me was they were looking at various different county councils and how much money they were having to spend. And in Hampshire, for example, 3-4 years ago, they weren't spending anything.
Yeah.
And this year, they're spending 24 million.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, that is outrageous.
Do you know?
And it's just happening.
You know the writer Ed West.
Yes.
He says he has a very good way of explaining this. The £24 million, Mike. That's why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
That's why we can't have nice things. If you have a state that's spending £5 billion nationally on this, and you have all these local authorities wasting money they don't have.
Yeah.
Out of necessity, because what are you going to do with people if you have open borders? You're going to have this. It's got to be stopped. Please look at Ascension. I would say, I think by the time the general election comes in 2029, I think we will go all the way. I've always said this. I know you don't, but I think we will. Got a massive majority. They're not going to give up. It's terrible for the country. But 2029, I think any sensible party, if they want to get any votes, will have to have a policy like Ascension, which stops the flow of illegal migrants. And they will have to have a policy like the Red List. Once more, I don't agree with Trump on everything, but very often he's right. Yeah. And he stopped the border on the southern border.
Well, he's proved it could work as well.
He did, but he's got a red list. Yeah. And people research it, so he doesn't call it that. But at the state of play this morning, he's got 75 countries on a wider red list. You can't come in. He's got 20 countries, Haiti, Somalia, Afghanistan, on a red list. You can't even get in. You can't get a visa. It's completely banned.
Right.
Now, I think that for some states, if you show demonstrable harm from some of these groups coming to our country, you've got to have a policy like that. And I promise you, by the next election, a lot of parties, if they want any votes, are going to have something like this.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, Labour came in with a much harder line on immigration than any Labour government had before. But they haven't done anything about it.
No.
So they've brought, so-called policies in to stop the boats and smash the gangs.
Smash the gangs.
And a lot of sloganeering.
That's
but
what it is.
actually nothing's happened. And as we've just seen, 541 people have come in the last 2 days. So we're not stopping. I mean, this is not great weather, by the way, for it. But it's not stopping them, you know?
No, it won't. But that's because the SW1 and the media class, the political media class, all of their advisors think about things in terms of slogans.
Yeah.
So it will be stop the boats, smash the gangs. What do we do? That's the slogan. It's just a slogan. It's not going to solve anything at all.
No.
And then, you get some people on the right say you have the Royal Navy pushing boats. You can't push boats back.
No.
It doesn't work. You have a border force.
People forget we had the Navy in the Channel.
Yeah.
The Tories put the Navy in the Channel,
Yeah.
and they didn't do anything. And in fact, if anything, it was worse because people used to then be brought on board the Navy ships and brought to Britain.
Of course, yeah. No, and I said,
with
just
a
think of it
Navy
this way.
escort.
Think of it this way, but think of it this way. It wouldn't survive the first major capsize. If you have 80 people on a small boat, the Navy tries to push it back, they sink, drowns people, your policy's over there and then it would be. It's not a matter for the Royal Navy, it's a matter for your border force. I'd say come here, every single one of you, to Brize Norton straight to Ascension.
Yeah.
Right? No one's going to do it.
Right.
It would work.
Right. Well, if you remember, when it was suggested, and Pooch was just saying, we should do a show from Ascension, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe. I remember the RAF actually saying, when I think it was Boris Johnson, or maybe it was Rishi Sunak, I can't remember, but it was a Tory Prime Minister, they said they wouldn't fly people there. The RAF actually said we would refuse to do that because it's not humanitarian.
Well, you've got a major problem. I mean, you know what the civil service is like. What's the point of the RAF?
This is the RAF.
Yeah, I know, it's getting bad. No, I mean, I've argued it through with, I remember Rhys Mogg and I disagreed at an event. He said, William, you can't do it, it's too expensive. And I said, it was pretty expensive doing what you're doing now. So anyway, we'll see about that. The country's in a terrible state.
Just been sent this. East Sussex Council agrees a 70 million loan to sustain care services. So they're taking out more loans to pay for more social care, much of which will probably be spent on people who are not from this country. And they can't afford to pay it back.
Well, meanwhile, the national deficit situation is over 100 billion. I mean, it's putting onto the debt pile on every domain, Mike. It's not just central government. It's the same with student loans. That's Ponzi scheme getting out of control. I think correcting all this is going to be quite painful, and I try and be honest to people, the public. It's like the energy stuff, the housing crisis. All of it will require some pain, some investment. You have to forgo today for a better tomorrow. At the moment, we're still governed by people who think you can have what you like.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah, and we still don't have any money, and yet we keep spending more and more. Let's see, JHB says the EU has offshore migrant processing centres. It's called the UK. Yeah, I think that's quite right.
That's probably right.
There's some very good messages coming in, actually. We are full, says Mark. Yeah, it's a super chat from Cookie Boy. Every 1,500 that enter the UK, you need another GP. That's a good point as well.
True.
And we haven't got enough GPs at the moment. And also many GPs that I speak to say they don't work more than 3 days a week because the tax regime is so punitive that it's not worth their while to do it. And the other story that I was revealing a bit earlier today to Chris Rhodes, £125,000 a salary to be a teacher. You know, there's over 1,000 teachers in this country getting paid £125,000. And now again, public money.
Yeah.
Which is coming out of local councils, right?
Yeah, but on the doctor's side, we've never had any health secretary in the last probably 30 plus years that has even attempted to train sufficient doctors and nurses and clinicians for the NHS needs. They deliberately train too few and then just import them. And remember, some of the doctors are probably okay, but foreign doctors have about twice the medical negligence rate that a British trained doctor does. Not good enough. We've got to rediscover some old-fashioned things like labour market planning and predicting how many people we need and actually upskilling people. It's the first headline on our immigration policy. The very first one is end mass immigration. We will train British people in every domain, give them the skills such that labour migration is not required at all. That's what you've got to do.
Right. But also, in black and white terms, quite frankly, you know, it's very clear that the immigration system is not providing people for working in jobs because it's providing an awful lot of people who come here and then get on benefits. I remember for years I used to be told by left-wing commentators it's not true to say that people can come here from other countries and claim benefits. That doesn't happen. Asylum seekers are not allowed to claim benefits. Oh, really? Well, what do you call a hotel room? What do you call a house? You know, what do you call free food? What do you call free white goods and free medical care? These are all benefits.
Yeah, these are obvious.
Which cost us money.
Yeah, the national accounts prove that's not true. And actually, you're quite right. You've got four major routes in migration. A minority of total migration to the country is people working. Yeah. And actually, the ONS's own figures say low-skilled migration, which is what we're doing a lot of, is fiscally negative. It actually costs you in the long run. Yeah. The ONS estimated that if for every one low-skilled migrant you have, it's going to cost the state over £250,000 per person to look after them. So they're not these. I mean, whatever you think of migration, the facts say this is not fiscally positive. It's actually costing your country to do it. Train up our own people. Yeah. That's what
I used to tell a story over a talk when I spoke to a guy called Tony Smith, who you probably know, former immigration sort of chief, and he told a story that he had been told by one of his sort of former employees who works at Heathrow, who said that there was a situation where 3 female nurses came in to work for the NHS from Ethiopia. They each had 5 kids and a husband. Right? So it was effectively for the 3 people coming in who might be earning, say, I don't know, call it 35,000. They each had 5 dependents.
So you're educating. Yeah.
So,
all of the
kids. You've got 21 people coming into the country, and only 3 of them are working.
That's crazy. I mean,
it makes no sense.
A country that does this is literally going down the tubes if you allow this sort of thing. Same with students, Mike. People come, undergraduates come with their partners and their families, and that's just it can't happen.
No.
You know,
I went to New York when I was 23, right? I didn't try and go with my parents. I didn't have any children at that point. I didn't try and take my sister or my auntie. You know, I went on my own. And that's what people should be doing. If you want to go and study in a foreign country, why are you taking loads of people with you?
Yeah, no, it's
what's that about?
Well, we're being fleeced.
Yeah, that is the word, isn't it? And talking of health and talking of healthy kind of countries. How about this from Danny actually first, Mike? Where have the stats for 1 in, 1 out gone, and why have they stopped talking about it? Well, it's a very good point. Because it isn't 1 in, 1 out. I will vote for the party who will really tackle illegal immigration, says Nikki. And hi, Mike. During my lifetime, the UK population has increased by a whopping 40%, from 50 million to almost 70 million, says Sue in West Sussex. And that's another thing, you know, that it's plain to see. You can see. I mean, I came into work this morning. About 5:45. The road's rammed with cars. Yeah, I know. And they're all driving at bloody 16 miles an hour, which doesn't please me either. No. But we talk about the healthcare system. We've now got a Secretary of State for Health who's more concerned about trying to get rid of Keir Starmer than he is about trying to cut the waiting lists.
Yeah, well, I think he's shot himself in the foot. No, you can see what he's thinking of. he seems quite inexperienced, doesn't he? I've said
He does.
before, Ed Miliband's going to be the next Prime Minister.
You
But
said that, and I think you're right.
He is. I know he's playing blind though. It's like,
Yeah.
so streeting, say, oh, I'll give you my WhatsApps, deny. I mean,
Right.
he's implicated himself with Mandelson.
He has.
Anyway, he's Mandelson's mate.
Yeah.
So that's not a good look. And of course Miliband is able to say, no, we've got to back the Prime Minister and for the good of the country. You can just see it. After the May elections, I'll make another prediction. I think Starmer probably, unless there's something in the data we get literally in the next couple of weeks,
right,
that means Starmer has to go. I think the logical thing for the Labour Party is to get to the May elections, take that awful result, and then try and have a fresh start. And that's when Miliband would probably say, okay, time's up, mate. I'll step in for the good of the country, for the good of the Labour Party. I didn't really do this. I don't want to do this, but I must do it for the state.
Right.
So that you can just see it. He's a very experienced
He
politician.
is. However, he was hopeless the last time he was the leader of the party.
Yes,
right? And he's mad.
Yeah, well, I've said
there
this
is
before.
that.
Yeah, but how many people in the Labour Party have read it? What are their views? Do their views match up with Miliband's?
Well,
Probably.
do you know the troublesome thing for me today? One of the things that's upset me the most that I've read this morning in the Times is all about this Mandelson-Epstein relationship, which appears to go back to 2002 now, right? Yeah. In which they're talking about Mandelson emailing Jonathan Powell, Blair's chief of staff, to say that Bill Clinton wants to introduce this guy Epstein. He described Epstein as an active scientific catalyst entrepreneur who's got his finger on the pulse of many world markets and currencies. He's young and vibrant. He's safe, whatever that means. And Clinton is now doing a lot of travelling with him. I bet he is.
I bet he is, yeah.
And it turns out that he brokered a meeting between Blair and Epstein in 2002.
I know.
So this guy Epstein has been all over Labour government. I don't know about the Tories. We don't really have a connection for that. But Mandelson has been in bed with this guy, literally, possibly, for nigh on 25 years.
For years. And when he was a minister, of course, what we know about what Mandelson gave over to Epstein in terms of the Euro bailout and, putting him in touch with assets which NatWest controlled and were eventually acquired by an American bank.
And also Gordon Brown's situation, whether he was going to resign, whether he wasn't going to resign, all of that.
But all of that, so in British law, insider dealing, there are two things that are key to it. You have to give someone information that's specific enough and it has to be market sensitive. And both those things, several things that Mandelson has done appear to satisfy that. That's against the law. You should, and the tariff for that is 7 years in jail. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether he profited from it personally. That's not actually what the law says.
Right.
Is it specific enough and is it market sensitive? And if it is, and you had prior information of it, that's insider dealing. That's against the law. So we'll find out what happens with this.
It's incredible. I just worry that it's going to take such a long time to get to that point because the investigation itself, if it's going to go back 20 odd years, is going to take years, isn't it?
It probably will, but the law is pretty clear on this, and it's also it's interesting actually. I mean, whether it doesn't, as I said, it doesn't. Insider dealing doesn't need you don't need proof of you benefiting from it. But he took, and his husband took resources from Epstein after that.
There's certainly money going that way.
There's certainly resources going that way after. So it stinks. Absolutely stinks.
It does. I mean, a message there from somebody about corruption and what has to be done before somebody actually gets kicked out of government for being corrupt. There it is from O'Connor. How corrupt do you have to be thrown out of government, for heaven's sake, or words to that effect? I mean,
well, people used to resign.
They did.
They used to be, back in the day, if your department failed or there was incompetence in there, you'd resign.
Yeah.
But Starmer's clinging on.
I mean, I would play you Keir Starmer's video from yesterday, but people complain whenever I play it because it's so annoying. But should we give it another go,
Give it a
go. Give it a go. This is Starmer talking about how he doesn't want to walk away from the job.
There are some people in recent days who say the Labour government should have a different fight, a fight with itself, instead of a fight for the millions of people who need us to fight for them. And I say to them, I will never walk away from the mandate I was given to change this country. I will never walk away from the people that I am charged with fighting for. And I will never walk away from the country that I love. And that is the country who I truly believe we are, a compassionate, reasonable, live and let live country, a diverse country, where given half the chance, we'll help each other out. That is who we are as a country, and I want to serve every single part of that country. The country that I love. But the fight coming up in politics, the real fight, is not in the Labour Party. It's with the right-wing politics that challenges that. The politics of reform. The politics of divide, divide, divide. Grievance, grievance, grievance. That will tear our country apart. That is the fight that we are in. And I will be in that fight as long as I have breath in my body.
Yeah, with every breath in his body. I mean, it's so awful, isn't it? It's just a cringe. We were saying earlier, William Clouston's here with me, it's 8:29. The people in the room look as if that's that scene from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where they're all kind of medicated.
Yeah.
You know, medication time. You know, they're all just sitting there, wondering when they can go
get
back.
out.
Yeah, just get out, or
Go on a bus trip.
Go and do something else, or go on a boat. You know, people are asking to have a look at this book, and I'm told I've got to hold it up the right way. How about that? Is that good? Immigration is the name of it, and for the other luminaries that might want to know about who have contributed to it, I should give them a name check, shouldn't I? It's called The Betrayal of Britain, and William Clouston's written a chapter. Peter Whittle's written the introduction. Alp Mehmet from Migration Watch has written a chapter. Amy Gallagher as well. Rob Bates, Connor Tomlinson, Philip Kisley, who we have on this show quite a lot. Rafe Heidelman-Koo, of course, who we have on as well. Charlie Downs. Very, very good book. Very interesting, different chapters covering different bits. As William said, you cover the housing. Here's another thing that's wrong with the NHS. I'm just about to discuss this with you because this is my plank of the day. Check it out.
Hello, it's plank of the day time.
Was I supposed to do the news first?
Yeah, don't worry.
No, okay, we're not going to worry. Another NHS trust has advertised for a close relative nurse to help cousins having children together. This time, it's Manchester Foundation Trust. Says the ideal candidate for the 12-month fixed-term job is fluent in Urdu and someone who values diversity and difference. And it's the latest in a series of similar positions publicised across the NHS, including hospitals in Slough, Bradford and Bedfordshire. An NHS source said the purpose is to give advice on the genetic risks associated with children born from close relative marriages.
Yeah, got a better idea.
Yeah.
Just ban
Just
cousin
ban
cousin
marriages, yeah, exactly.
Better, yeah.
And again, politicians are all nervous, aren't they, about actually doing it? They don't want to be seen to be somehow, you know, crossing the Rubicon of,
Can we look at evidence again?
Of racism.
Just look at evidence.
Yeah.
Look at the birth defects
Yeah.
that are resulting from it. Look at the societal effects of cousin marriage.
Yeah.
The clannishness
Yeah.
that results from it. It's not helpful at all.
No, and it also leads to what you would call the ghettoisation of society,
It
doesn't
does, yeah, it does.
Because
And
it
you've
means
got-
that, you know, huge portions of large towns in this country are full of people who are related to each other.
Yeah, but people, we are a liberal, individualistic society compared to some others, and one of the reasons for that is that we don't practice cousin marriage.
Yeah.
We don't have clan-based systems.
Right.
You know, it does feed this idea that it's your family first, and society, anyone outside. That's where the circle of trust is.
Yeah.
And no, I think it should be banned.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with you.
Yeah.
I don't imagine anybody wouldn't agree with you unless they wanted to marry their cousin, which is a bit weird anyway. Anyway, there we are. That's Plank of the Day.
Hello, it's plank of the day time.
William Clouston, thank you very much indeed.
Good to be here.
Very
Thank
good
you.
to see you. Should we have a
Take
bit of
care.
news? Yeah. Here's the news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Oh, brilliant Britain. It's February 11th, and we've got another glorious day of sunshine and optimism. Here's your summary of today's headlines. Keir Starmer is still clinging to power like a limpet on a wet rock after that hilarious failed coup attempt. Yesterday's drama? Epic. Today? He's united the cabinet, so everything's fine. No Epstein fallout, no Mandelson mess, just pure leadership vibes. Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch is out there screaming that Labour's taxes are a shameful assault on high streets, because nothing says saving the economy like another round of business bashing. The weather? Still raining. Every single day in 2026 so far. Flood warnings, soggy shoes, and Brits muttering typical while pretending it's character building. NHS productivity plan, we're apparently smashing targets. 2% improvement, folks. So expect shorter waiting lists any century now. School stabbing in London, a teen arrested after knifing 2 boys. Knife crime epidemic? Shocking. Never seen that before. Defence Secretary John Healey is off to Norway, promising to double troops there to deter Putin, because nothing screams Arctic security like sending more lads to freeze in the snow. And Prince Andrew, still the gift that keeps on giving. Polls say most Brits want the king to make him testify on Epstein. Royal family crisis. What a surprise. Business as usual. There you have it. Taxes up, rain down, politics chaotic, and the sun still refusing to show its face. Classic UK Wednesday. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Edward Hughes with the news. More and more of you are asking about this book that I've just been talking to William Clouston about, so let me show it to you right there. There it is, Immigration. It's called The Betrayal of Britain. It's a compendium of chapters written by different people, including William Clouston and others, all about the myths surrounding immigration in this country. And as Rafe Heidelman-Koo has pointed out on this show before, and as he said last night in a speech, more people have come to this country in the last 20 years than had previously come in 2,000 years before that. And that is why we have so many problems in this country, and that is why so many people now are arguing the case for not just deportation of people, but, as you just heard from William Clouston's SDP party there, an actual ban on people coming from certain countries because of the fact that many of them are either coming here and they are highly disproportionately committing crime, or highly disproportionately on benefits, because there's no way that you can make the case that that improves the country that we live in. Surely not. Let's talk to Nick Buckley, MBE. He's with us now. He's standing for the Advanced Party up in Gorton and Denton in the by-election. Nick, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for having me back on.
Not at all. Good to see you. How's it all going? What's the mood up in Gorton and Denton? I've got a couple of questions for you about the Green candidate, but I'll come on to her in a minute. Tell us what you're finding on the doorstep.
Talking to the people, the area's split in two. So you've got the Gorton half, you've got the Denton half. The Gorton half are telling me the main number one concern there is grime, dirt, dog poo, litter. The place is under Manchester Council and it's a mess. The Denton half is under Tameside Council, and they're telling me on the doorstep that their number one concern is mass immigration. So it's a story of two halves, really.
Right. And one of those halves has got quite a large Muslim population, right?
Yeah, the Gorton side.
Okay. And so is it likely then that the sort of demographic breakdown of the voting will almost be a 50-50 split as well?
It's a bit more complicated than that. So again, two halves. The Denton half is mainly white working class. The Gorton half is very diverse. Lots of university students, lots of new immigrants, large Muslim community. So the Gorton half is really being split between Labour and the Greens. People are writing Labour off, but speaking to people on the street, there's a very good chance we've got lots of Labour voters out there who are just embarrassed to admit they're going to be voting Labour.
Yeah.
I've had one or two people confide in me that they're still voting Labour, but I don't want to tell anybody because there's such a shambles at the moment. But the Denton half, I think it's a fight between Advance UK and Reform UK.
Yes. And I mean, it's funny that you say that, because I've been hearing that as well, that Labour and its collapse should not be kind of too quickly assumed to be the case, because they're a bit like the shy Tories, right? You know, people don't like to sometimes admit which way they're going to vote, in case people think they're stupid. But it doesn't stop them voting that way.
It doesn't, especially if it's a habit of a lifetime, you know, and you're looking at the alternatives. You might be a Dynawood socialist, but you're thinking, do I want to vote for the Greens? The Greens, and if I think the Labour Party are mental, well, the Greens are proper way out there, space hopping mental. Do I want to vote for them? The Greens have a reputation now of turning into an Islamic party. Do I want to vote for the Greens? So there's some traditional Labour voters who may not want to vote for Advance, may not want to vote for Reform, but definitely don't want to vote for Greens. So they're looking at Labour going, it's my only chance. I know they're poor at the moment, but they may get better. So people are clinging on to hope with Labour.
And what about the individual candidates? I mean, I'm looking at a story in the Telegraph this morning about the Green candidate, Hannah Spencer. Somebody's apparently unearthed a quote from her saying she was glad to move out of the area because it was so horrible. And one of the things she didn't like about it was that it was full of apparently money laundering takeaways.
Right, I've missed that. I've not. I was sat almost next to her yesterday at the first husting, so I didn't know she'd said that. She's a typical Green politician. She's has all the same. She doesn't know what a woman is. There's a video online from a couple of months ago, walking down the street, pointing to all the Union Jack flags on lampposts, basically saying, racists in the area, we should be raising our flag. It's racist. It's not diverse. It's divisive.
Yeah.
So she's comes across as middle class. She pretends to be a plumber, where I believe she fits heat pumps. She's not a plumber like me and you think of the word plumber.
Right.
And at the hustings yesterday, she was talking about everything you expect. Net zero is going to kill us. We need to invest more money in the NHS. We need a wealth tax. These wealthy people, we could solve all our problems if we just taxed people more. And she's dangerous, but the Green Party is the most dangerous party in the UK.
Well, Zach Polanski's a very strange man, and I'm not sure what he's all about, but I'm pretty sure that something strange is going to come out about him over the course of the next year or so. Speaking of you knowing what a woman is, you've come under fire a little bit, Nick. Have we just lost him? No. You've come under fire a little bit for some comments you've made about women in the past. I mean, some people have even gone as far as to say they think you're a bit of a misogynist. What do you say about that?
See, there's lots of comments like that that I've made, and they're all out of context. All those comments, all those discussions are me talking about the over-sexualization of girls and the promotion of prostitution to our young women. I was talking about OnlyFans. So we call them OnlyFans models. They're not models, they're prostitutes.
Yeah.
Mainstream media, almost on a weekly basis, the newspapers do a story almost weekly about a police officer, a secretary, a businesswoman who gives up their career to be an OnlyFans prostitute. And we're promoting it as if it's a decent, valid career. And my answer is, it's not. I'm not apologizing for that. 20 years ago, I'd have been in trouble for using prostitutes. Roll on 20 years, I'm in trouble now by a small percentage of female reform supporters for actually standing up against prostituting our young girls. The world's gone crazy, Mike.
Well, that's because I suppose there will be people who would argue that women doing that, choosing to do that, is, advertising their sexuality, expressing themselves. I mean, I tend to be more on your side on the OnlyFans front, but there will be people who will say, well, if a woman wants to do that, that's entirely up to her. But the kind of Bonnie Blue business is so horrible that I'd really rather not think about it this time of the morning.
Yeah, I mean, Bonnie Blue has ruined her life. Her husband's now divorced her. When you look at Bonnie Blue talking, she's dead behind the eyes. She's destroyed herself. It was self-inflicted, but it was also promoted by our society. So she followed some of the rules we were promoting. And then we look at other people. You know Helen Flanagan from Coronation Street. She's wrote an article about how she was over-sexualized at 16 years old by Coronation Street. And you can imagine now how that's why she is where she is now. She over-sexualizes herself all the time now. Why? Because she was taught it as a 16-year-old girl. Look at Britney Spears, over-sexualized all her life. She's had a psychotic breakdown. And there's porn stars, former porn stars on YouTube, many videos crying, I'm sorry I've done what I've done. It's all online now. My children are coming home from school being bullied because I've seen your mum. And we're allowing people to make poor decisions. We're not even allowing it. We're promoting them to do it. I don't want to ban OnlyFans. I'm not one of these people who want to ban things. What I'm saying is, as a society, we need to start sending better, more positive messages to our young people about what positive careers look like and not allowing them to make these poor decisions that we know are going to ruin their lives. What sort of society have we created?
So if you don't ban it, though, presumably it still goes on because people will see the opportunity to make an awful lot of money, because they do, some of them make an awful lot of money. Are you hopeful then that they would see sense and just not do it?
It's about societal norms, societal shame. So at the moment, you're an OnlyFans model and we clap you and get you on TV. You go, girl, girl power. We need to be saying to people, well, you can do OnlyFans. Prostitution is the oldest career in the world, but we're going to look down upon you and we're going to tell you you're not an OnlyFans model. You're an OnlyFans prostitute. Just like we don't let men pretend they're women anymore. We need to start telling people the truth, because if you live in an unreality, people make the wrong choices. And the reason why I don't want to ban OnlyFans, which would be an easy thing to do, but if we give the power to government to start banning things they think are damaging society, next week, Mike, they're going to ban your station.
Yeah.
Or ban me going online. So I don't want to ban things.
They've
with
already
the law.
tried that once.
Exactly. So I want the community, I want society to say, no, just like we do with drug dealers. No, drug dealing isn't a valid career. We need to do it with prostitution. And I'm not against prostitutes. I'm against homelessness. I don't dislike homeless people. I'm against cancer. I don't dislike people with cancer. I don't like prostitution. It doesn't mean I don't care for the girls who are in the prostitution ring. I want to help them, support them, get them a better life.
Okay. A lot of people on the chat this morning with me saying, Advance shouldn't be running against Reform. They shouldn't be splitting the vote. There's a lot of, as you say, people from Reform who are not happy with you. What would you say to them?
I say to them, then, how dare you tell the people of Denton and Gorton who they should be able to vote for? You want to take away their ability to be able to vote for different candidates because you think you know better than them. You think they're too stupid to be able to work out who they should vote for. That's exactly what these people are saying when they say don't split the vote. They're saying these people are too stupid to be able to make the best decision for them, their family, their community. We had the same arguments at Brexit. Tories used the same arguments against reform for 3, 4, 5 years. This is just another political smear campaign from a party who now think they own those votes in Denton and Gorton. We own them. They're our votes. Don't you start looking at our voters. It's like, no, this is a democracy. And everyone pretends to like democracy until it stops working in their favour. And Reform UK are at that stage now where it doesn't work in their favour anymore now.
Well, they certainly would argue that they're still topping the polls and they're likely to get a lot more votes than you guys are. And one of the reasons they're not happy is because, for example, if you look at Sarah Pochin's win in Runcorn, they won by literally just a handful of votes. And say, for example, had there been an advanced candidate like yourself who had got maybe, a couple of thousand votes, they wouldn't have won that seat.
And if they lose this by-election, what Reform need to do is look at themselves and go, we're not good enough, are we? We're not good enough. We need to start talking about our policies. We need to change the party so people like Nick Buckley don't leave us in the first place. I was a member of Reform, but I left because I thought they're only pretending to be different. They're not different. They're part of the uni party. They're just a control option. So if they lose this, they need to go to the drawing board and work out how they can be a better party. I'm tired of politicians blaming the voter when they make the wrong choices.
And what about your expectations here, Nick? What would you call a good result for Advance?
Well, my campaign only started a week ago. I'm already fourth in the polls. My odds at the bookies are dropping every couple of days. So I started off at 200 to 1. A bookie had me yesterday at 80 to 1. So there's another 2 weeks to go. I'm climbing up those polls. So at the moment I'm finishing fourth. And
you'd be happy with that?
Pardon?
Would you be happy with that?
No.
I was going to say, it's not, I don't want to be unkind, but it's not a great ambition, is it, to go, I'm hoping to finish fourth.
No, I wouldn't have entered it if my aim is to finish fourth.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to break into the top 3 over the next week. And then, anyone can win this race to a certain extent. The votes split everywhere. Somebody could win this election on 20% of the turnout. 20% is not a lot. The Greens and the Labour are splitting the left-wing vote. We're hoping to take votes off Reform. We're hoping to get people to vote who normally don't vote, because I'm the local candidate. I was born and raised in the area. I went to school in the area. I set my charity up in the area. I've not been parachuted in from London. So at the moment, it's too early to tell. I'm an outsider. Of course, I'm an outsider, but I am fighting this to win because you never know.
True. And what about the number then? If it's 20% of the vote, how many actual votes is that?
Well, all depends on turnout. Turnout was really poor at the general election. It was 48% of people turned out, and Labour got 52% of the 48% who turned up. But Labour will collapse. Some may just get over the line, maybe if they're lucky, but they've collapsed. So you're probably what you're looking at. You're probably looking, 10,000 votes. If all the others all get really close, you're not looking at that many votes to win this election.
And what's your main kind of campaigning slogan with Advance? I mean, what are you selling?
Well, I'm the only person with a manifesto. No one else has a manifesto. They're all talking about national issues. And one MP can't do anything on a national stage. So I've created 5 points I'm going to promote and I'm going to do. So the first one is on day one, I'm launching a local grooming gang and child abuse inquiry. I'm going to be funding a youth project with my MP salary because I don't need 96 grand to live on. And that's going to be working on the streets, tackling knife crime. I'm going to be setting up a hotline where council staff can report wasted incompetence, and I'll embarrass the councils publicly.
That'll be busy.
Pardon?
I said that'll be busy.
Well, no, absolutely. We need the councils to do better. They're wasting billions and taxing us more every single year. And then I'm going to hold the police accountable. I want their priorities to be our priorities. No more this woke silliness. And the fifth one is going to be really, really uncomfortable for me. I'm going to hold 10 public meetings every year, big, large halls, public meetings where anyone can turn up to hold me accountable. Why did I vote that way in Parliament? Why wasn't I in Parliament? Why am I not in the area? What am I doing with my time? What do I think about this? And I'm going to let the people hold me to account and tell me if I'm doing a good job or a bad job. 10 times a year in a big public hall where anyone can turn up. I'm not looking forward to that, but politicians need to understand we work for the public. They're our boss, and we need to answer to them. It's not good enough that they only get a say on me at an election.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would be happy to entertain all of those things. Nick, good to see you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Wish you the best of luck. Nick Buckley, MBE, standing for the Advance UK party, of course. He's accused by many of splitting the vote. I think he answered the misogynistic claims reasonably well, actually. But we'll take your views on it, of course. Because this is the home of common sense, the real home of common sense. We've got 8:51 coming up to 8:52. We're here, of course, until 9:30, going all the way through. We've got Ralph Schulhammer to talk to coming up very shortly, and we'll probably try and get him to say I think he's going to be back, as you probably know. But for right now, I think it's time for Mike's meltdown. That's the worst picture of me I've ever seen. Let's have another look at it. I don't even know how they managed to get me to do that. But let's talk about, the Prime Minister. And I know that so many of you are fed up hearing him and fed up listening to him and fed up with the whole idea of him, right? Well, I could not agree with you more. And what I want to say to you about him this morning is I don't know why he's still there. I really don't know why he says he's going to fight for you, because he isn't going to fight for you. He's fighting for himself. He doesn't want to give up the job because he knows, basically, that if he's not Prime Minister, he's nothing. Absolutely nothing. He's got no discernible skills. He's not exactly going to become an after-dinner speaker, is he? Can you imagine paying good money to be entertained by Keir Boring Starmer? I'd like to say I have some opportunities for you, so that after I finish speaking, I will sign some books and give you more opportunities to meet me. I don't know why he says it like that, but let's have a look at some of the headlines this morning, right? Mandelson investigation will go back to the Blair era. That's from the Times, page 1. Starmer's ex-number 10 spin doctor loses the whip because of a friendship with a paedophile, right? Starmer's too weak to sack Wes Streeting. That's the Financial Times. Wes Streeting still wants to get Starmer out. That's The Guardian. The Prime Minister did see proof of Mandelson's friendship with Jeffrey Epstein. Why? Because it was published in the Daily Telegraph in 2024. So when he actually said that he didn't know about it, didn't know about the extent of it, It's another lie, right? Now, you look around the papers this morning and you just see one story after another, which basically confirms your worst fears. The one about Starmer suspending his Blairite mate, Matthew Doyle, who's, of course, a peer in the House of Lords. He took the Labour whip off him finally because he campaigned for a paedophile, right? He was appointed to the House of Lords despite complaints about his connection to former Labour councillor Sean Morton. Morton was charged with possession and distribution of indecent images of children in December 2016. He was suspended by Labour, right? He worked for Tony Blair's government. He then campaigned for this paedophile the following May when he ran as an independent in local elections in Scotland. 6 months later, Morton pleaded guilty to the charges in court. It was basically Monday before any of this came to light. The peer was only sworn in last month. And here's what he had to say in a statement. I want to apologise for my past association with Sean Morton. His offences were vile, and I completely condemn the actions for which he was rightly convicted. My thoughts are with the victims and all those impacted by these crimes. This is the new mantra, isn't it? You come out and say, think of the victims. Well, he didn't think of the victims when he was campaigning for him to be elected. He didn't think of the victims when he agreed to support him in his campaign. He certainly didn't agree or worry about the victims when he was promoted into the House of Lords as a Labour peer. And these people are disgusting, right? Here's something else that'll annoy you. Page 2 of the Daily Mail. Labour was last night accused of disrespecting the King because they've dropped the words His Majesty from official communications, right? Without even asking the public, and I presume without consulting the monarchy. They've taken the word HM government off the headed notepaper that they put out, and they've changed it to UK government. So it's no longer His Majesty's government. And if you check Starmer and the way he speaks, he often refers to himself and the government as my government, which is wrong, because it's not his government. It's His Majesty's government, right? And the change in this stationary scenario is blamed by the spokespeople for the government on a strategic decision to remove the reference to His Majesty the King in all public communications. Well, who said they could do that? I certainly didn't. You certainly didn't. The change has been made without public announcement, consultation or explanation, raising questions about Labour's attitude toward the monarchy and Britain's traditions. Shameful, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. And more upsetting, perhaps, than any of that is the Times story about the long history between the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein and Peter Mandelson, which goes all the way back, by the way, to 2002, when Mandelson brokered a meeting between Epstein and Tony Blair, right? Mandelson had already resigned as Northern Ireland Secretary because of a scandal the previous year, but he remained close to the Prime Minister. What, again, this tells you is that these people just do what they like. You know, the spin doctor gets kicked out. The minister gets kicked out. They don't go anywhere. They go out the front door and then go back round the back door. You know, no offence to Peter Mandelson. You know what I mean? It's just ridiculous. It's like revolving door politics. It then turns out that this is how Mandelson described Jeffrey Epstein, an active scientific catalyst and entrepreneur who has his finger on the pulse of many world markets and currencies. Yeah, well, one of the reasons he's got his finger on the world markets and currencies is because he's getting information from government ministers around the world to tell him what's going on in their fiscal policy. Here's what else he said. He's young and vibrant. Nice. Clinton is now doing an awful lot of travelling with him. He's safe, whatever that means. Well, he isn't really, is he? So the police investigation now is going to go all the way back to the Blair era. Now, that means it's going to go all the way back around about 25 years. Can you imagine how long that's going to take? Can you imagine how long Plod is going to be, you know, sniffing around, looking at papers, looking at emails, looking at WhatsApp messages? It's going to take forever, right? This government, I don't know how on earth they've got the brass neck to even say that they're still operational. Because what we now know is that until that election, the by-election, which is later this month, we just spoke to Nick Buckley about it, if Labour get horsed in that, surely to God, Starmer will have to go. I don't even understand how he's got, as I say, the brass neck to be still standing there saying that he's going to fight for the people. because he's not going to go anywhere as long as he's got breath in his body. I mean, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? Totally and utterly ridiculous. I'm sick to death of it. And I know that I've been saying he's going to be leaving, and I've been saying it for a long time, and he will, but I don't see the point of having to wait now until the end of April and then get into May and then wait for the elections in May and then watch the inevitable complete and utter El Collapso of the Labour government or the Labour vote. Just do it now. Get it over with. You know, apparently Anas Sarwar, before he called for Keir Starmer to go the other day, had a conversation with Angela Rayner. She wants him out. Wes Streeting wants him out. The whole country wants him out. As William Clouston said, just have an election. He doesn't think there's going to be one. He thinks Ed Miliband's going to be the new leader. Heaven help us. Get your wind farms ready. Incredible stuff. I'm still going to keep my fingers crossed and hope that, you know, by maybe the end of next week, Starmer will be no more. Let's face it, that would be your wish as well, wouldn't it? That's Mike's Meltdown. Coming up after this, we'll have some news with Edward Hughes.
Why don't you relax and be a bit more MG? That would be a triumph.
Good morning, all. Here's the news with me, Edward Hughes. Oh, brilliant Britain. It's February 11th, and we've got another glorious day of sunshine and optimism. Here's your summary of today's headlines. Keir Starmer is still clinging to power like a limpet on a wet rock after that hilarious failed coup attempt. Yesterday's drama? Epic. Today? He's united the cabinet, so everything's fine. No Epstein fallout, no Mandelson mess, just pure leadership vibes. Meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch is out there screaming that Labour's taxes are a shameful assault on high streets, because nothing says saving the economy like another round of business bashing. The weather? Still raining. Every single day in 2026 so far. Flood warnings, soggy shoes, and Brits muttering typical while pretending it's character building. NHS productivity plan? We're apparently smashing targets. 2% improvement, folks. So expect shorter waiting lists any century now. School stabbing in London. A teen arrested after knifing 2 boys. Knife crime epidemic? Shocking. Never seen that before. Defence Secretary John Healey is off to Norway promising to double troops there to deter Putin because nothing screams Arctic security like sending more lads to freeze in the snow. And Prince Andrew, still the gift that keeps on giving. Polls say most Brits want the king to make him testify on Epstein. Royal family crisis. What a surprise. Business as usual. There you have it. Taxes up, rain down, politics chaotic, and the sun still refusing to show its face. Classic UK Wednesday. Please remember to like and subscribe. Laters Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, please do hit the like button because we'd like to get it up to about 5,000 every time we have a show, which we're almost at, we're just over 4 at the moment. So can you do an impression of King Charles II if we get to 5,000 likes? I could try. I've not really done King Charles much before, but I can certainly try. I used to do Harry. How about this from, oh, I've lost it, haven't I? There was a really good message I wanted to read out. Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven, says Nicholas. There is no other way to cover your sins than the shed blood of Jesus and repenting of sin. Well, thanks very much for that. I'll take that on board and have it run it up the flagpole, see if anyone salutes it. Save Mike's hairstyle. Give generously for Mike to get a haircut. The gel ain't working anymore, says Alien Warrior. What's wrong with my hair? I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
We got something on Friday, haven't we, about that?
What on? Oh yeah, actually we are going to be doing some hair action on Friday, but we can't say too much at the moment. But yes, keep the super chats coming. Simon has been very generous today, sending us lots of them. Thank you, Simon, for that. This one from Voice for England. Nick looked like he's about to teach political geography to Steve in class 9B. Said with affection. He's got a lot of boomerangs and what can only be described as Aboriginal kind of artifacts, I think, behind him, has Nick Buckley. One of the more interesting backgrounds, you'd have to say. Cookie Boy says, no uni, yet my son's now an engineer at a Formula One team. Well, there's so many different routes to success as a young person now. I think university is overrated. I think university is too expensive. I think it's run for the benefit of the lecturers and run for the benefit of the people who administrate the place, and it's not run for the benefit of the students. And as we've spoken about before, and we'll probably come back to it again, one of the problems is that basically the student loan system is not fit for purpose. As I've said many times, people are borrowing more money than they can afford to pay back. And because of the way the interest works, they're actually never really getting into a position where they can pay it back. You know, it's extraordinary. Let's have a look at Diane Abbott, though, because yesterday she was asked about Keir Starmer and she was asked about the whole situation vis-à-vis his resignation. Here's what she had to say.
Diane Abbott, of course, veteran Labour MP, the mother of the House, but is no longer a Labour MP because she's been suspended by the party. What do you think's really going on?
I think that the round of applause in the committee room just now was staged, just as all those endorsements of the Prime Minister, which appeared within 5 minutes of each other, were staged. And I can't see him lasting beyond May's elections.
So why are they waiting until May?
Because they're going to be catastrophic elections. And I think the idea is let him stay in there and take responsibility.
Right, but I mean, if you're staring at a disaster, why do you wait for it to happen rather than try and stop it happening?
Well, it's not down to me. You need to speak.
No, I mean, but if that's the dominant mood, I'm just trying to understand it. I mean, you know these people. Why do you think they're thinking that way? Is it that the election losses can't be stopped no matter who the leader is?
Exactly. We're going to have catastrophic results anyway. That's why Anna Sauer stepped up, because he doesn't want to see the Scottish Labour Party go down. So, you know, I think he may be moved before then, but I think he'll last until May.
Doesn't this look like a bungled coup, though? I mean, Anna Sauer stood up and was left hanging. I mean, nobody else joined him. I mean, he's the guy who went over the top by himself.
As you may have noticed, I'm not Scottish. I can't account for what Anna Sauer does. But I can tell you that the man and woman on the Stoke Newington High Street is really disgusted that Starmer signed off as somebody to be our ambassador in Washington, someone whose best friend rapes 14-year-olds.
Do you think this is now a zombie government?
I wouldn't call it a zombie government, but we're not going to get much done between now and May.
I mean, that is kind of what we mean by a zombie government, isn't it? I mean, what I mean is, do you think Keir Starmer is just waiting for the time to go?
Oh, no, I think...
Dead man walking kind of thing.
I think Keir Starmer thinks he can pull it all together, but I don't think he can. I don't think he can. What we need to do, because one of the problems with everything that's happened is it confirms people in the idea that MPs are all the same, we're all in it together, and what we need to do is draw a line under that type of thinking, and Keir Starmer isn't the man to do it.
Diane Abbott, thank you very much indeed.
Remarkable turnaround, isn't it, for Diane Abbott? This is from Jan, who says this: Diane Abbott is a strange creature. She seems like a dim-witted idiot, then occasionally comes out with the most insightful, prescient comments. Well, I wonder if she's had some kind of a realisation that her image was not doing her any favours, and that maybe she needed to have a bit of a makeover, and she started to say things which are, generally speaking, quite sensible. Because I think there was a period of time when she wasn't doing that, and she would sometimes show up on talk shows or on panels, and she would look like she wasn't really sure where she was, and who knows what happened. But it certainly seems as though lately she's become a bit more sensible and a bit more grounded. Let's have that one again that we just had on the screen a second ago. I think it said, "Well done, Diane."
Credit where credit's due.
Yeah, credit where credit's due. Well done, Diane. That one's just come in. We can do super chats as well. Another one from Simon there. Thank you very much indeed for that. Let's have another look at one of the other big stories, I guess, today. We were talking about Matthew Doyle, Lord Doyle, who's just been suspended effectively from the Labour Party, or kicked out of it because of his association with yet another paedophile. And I mean, this tells you more than you need to know about what's wrong with the Labour Party politics of this great country of ours. I mean, it's probably not just confined to Labour, but, I don't know what it is about politicians and their sort of propensity to hang around with people who they shouldn't hang around with. Here's Anna Turley MP talking about Matthew Doyle and what happened.
again, what we'd been told was not the truth when that decision was made. So look, the investigation is happening within the Labour Party now. The Prime Minister said, enough is enough, I'm taking this step. And he was very, very clear now that he's done that. And I think it's right that he's done that.
And finally, just before we talk to Ralph Schulhammer, we've got Piers Morgan. Yesterday, basically talking to Victoria Hervey, who's a former girlfriend, I think, of Andrew. And she's been on various different TV shows talking about how the Epstein situation happened and what the scenario is for it all. One of the things she said this week was that if you're not in the Epstein files, you kind of treat yourself as a bit of a loser, because it means you're not at the centre of anything, which is kind of an odd thing to say. Piers was pretty upset with her earlier on his show this week as well. Have a look at this.
Being in my position, I have been in a position where I have been able to be vocal, and that means that I've had a lot of people reaching out to me with information. A couple of months ago, I had a British girl reach out to me, and she said that her and her friend met Jeffrey Epstein in Virginia the weekend of March 10th, 2001, at the Dorchester Hotel. Virginia lured them to Jeffrey's hotel. She made the girls lie and say that they were 18 years old. One was 13, one was 14. They actually signed NDAs with Virginia, and David Boys paid them off. Now, they're too scared to come out.
Well, unless you've got evidence for any of that, I'm not going to allow you to spew any cock and bull conspiracy theory that has come to your mind.
Once David Boys, it might take to the point where he passes away, and then I feel like the floodgates will open, and all. Well,
you know what? David Boys might well sue you. David Boys might well sue you over what you've just said.
Well,
it's a
these
very
girls
serious
are
defamation.
in touch with the Metropolitan Police. So what I want to tell you is, I'm very much in touch with the police, literally on WhatsApp, and they know a lot of information that you guys are not privy to. But
do you know what, Victoria? With the greatest respect, I think you talk utter shit.
All right.
And I'm sorry. I've known you a long time. I think you've disappeared down a conspiracy rabbit hole that is frankly repulsive.
I've always been right about my conspiracies. You were wrong about COVID and you were wrong about the vaccine fears.
You don't give a damn about these girls. You don't give a damn about these victims. You think it's fine to smear all of them. You admit it. You proudly admit it. And I think it's shameful.
Why would I feel sorry for people that are liars?
We now know from these documents just how disgusting this scandal is, and yet still you come on shows like this and you're still in total denial for reasons that completely baffle me.
Can we talk about the quality of girls? So Anushka DeGiorgio as an example. You know what she did? Like, this is the caliber of person we're talking about. Anushka DeGiorgio...
Actually, I'm not going to let you smear them. I'm sorry.
She was the girl that set up Tom Parker
No, I'm not going to let you do it.
No,
sorry,
she
cut
did
it,
it.
Mike.
She did that one story.
I'm not letting you do it. I'm not letting you smear these victims anymore. I'm just not going to let you do it. Just cut her off. Ollie Dugmore.
Well, I wonder if you'll ever have her back on there. But... conspiracies all around the place at the moment, because the Epstein files are so far-reaching and they go so far back that there's so much in them. And, you know, we're told, yes, some of the things that have been reported haven't quite been stand-upable. Some of the things have been quite ridiculously outlandish. But who knows if any of it's true? Who knows how much of it is false? I don't think we'll know for a very long time precisely just how bad this all was. I mean, we found out today from the Times. Peter Mandelson's friendship with Epstein goes back to 2002. You know, so practically 25 years of it the police are going to look into, which is pretty extraordinary stuff. Let's talk to Ralph Schulhammer now. He's with us now in from Austria. Ralph, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Hey, Mike. Good to talk to you.
Good to have you back. I mean, I don't know whether I can ask you this question because you may just have an informed view or a not informed view. But I mean, how in Europe are the royal family being viewed at the moment? Because there's some very lurid stories going around, some of which haven't been proven, some of which have. Andrew's being urged to go and speak to the American Congress about what he knows. What's being said over in Europe?
Well, I think I don't think that the British royal family is particularly in the crosshairs, but there is growing, and surprisingly even in Austria, right, and smaller countries, a growing interest in all these names that pop up in the Epstein files. And I mean, it is interesting. I mean, I'm sure that many of your viewers have also read these weird email exchanges about getting pizza and grape soda, which No, it's where that's a line that appears so often. I think that Mark Stein kind of looked at it and he said, I mean, that line or the pizza is referenced around 800 times. Or around 900 times, and I think Vladimir Putin only 800 times. So he made the joke that if Epstein was a Russian agent, it might be more likely that he worked for Pizza Hut or Domino's Pizza. So there is a lot going on. I think that, yes, it's not just the British royals, right? It's the Norwegian royals.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to find something about others as well. I mean, you said it, I think, very eloquently, Mike. It's almost as if you're not in the Epstein files, I mean, I'm not saying I would feel like a loser, but one really has to watch one's own back. And what I find even more disconcerting, if you take Howard Lutnick in the US, I mean, this is a man who gave an interview just a couple of weeks ago and said decisively, I had no contact with Epstein, right? I broke it off immediately. And now we know that he blatantly lied. So this is the thing. So there are two things happening simultaneously, that on the one hand, oh, this is all just smoke, there is no fire. Okay, fine. But then why are all these people so desperate trying to deny that they obviously, like Peter Mandelson, had very intensive contact? So it's a very worrisome trend.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, I don't know where it ends either, because, you know, with every week that passes, more stuff comes out, more events are revealed. And as I say, if the police in this country are going to be going back to 2002, you know, that's going to take a long time.
I mean, yes, and I think but I think that we have to look at two things, which is, on the one hand, this is something that deserves our attention, but at the same time, let's not be too distracted by it. And what I mean by this, I mean, this almost, I think, was exclusively a topic on American media. But you know how a couple of, and I'm not trying to switch topics, but sometimes I feel like there's such an avalanche of news that we miss on certain things. There was a number of now Congress members, and I think the head of the Democratic Party of Texas, right, who came out publicly and said, well, now that we have a non-white majority, it is time for us to take over. So there is a lot of other stuff still going on as well that we should not ignore.
No, very much so. And we got plenty of time to talk about it as well. I'm looking at a piece on the front page of The Guardian today from Brussels. I don't know if you've seen it. MEPs approve offshore centres for migrants. So, you know, what a long way we've come. You know, when you consider that, you know, the European Union was once the kind of bastion of all things to do with, you know, immigration, and let's have as many people coming into Europe as we can handle. Angela Merkel, you remember, said everyone from Syria can come and live in Germany, until about 1 million people came, and hardly any of them came from Syria, right? But the EU yesterday moved closer to creating offshore centres for migrants and asylum seekers after MEPs united to agree on tougher immigration policy.
Yeah, I mean, I will admit that I think in a certain sense, all of this comes like 15 years too late.
Yeah.
And we live in a very odd period of time, like a historical period, in the sense that so many of past conspiracy theories seem to be accurate. I want to be completely honest. I mean, there are so many things 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I would have said, man, this is nuts. That cannot be true. But it turns out that a lot of this was actually true, or to put it differently, is actually true. I know you're absolutely right. My problem is, and I think this is something that many of your viewers feel similarly about, is that I no longer trust them. I think this is, they're trying, that's at least my perception. They're trying to, pull the wool over our eyes and say, oh, no, now we take the migration issue seriously. Don't worry about it. But I don't think they really do, because always remember COVID, right? COVID was a test. How quickly can the state impose things if it really wants to? And we saw it can do so very, very quickly. Yet when it comes to migration, it's all of a sudden, yeah, this takes time. It needs a rollout. We need to check with the European courts. We need to check with the local courts. So my suspicion is it's not really whether it can be done. It is whether those in charge want it, or if they want it to be done. And I think the answer to the first one is yes, it can be done. But the answer to the second is no, they don't want to do it.
I mean, The Guardian are alluding to the fact that it's because of the fact there's more right-wing MEPs now than there used to be. So they're kind of, coming together because they do actually want to do it. That may not be the case. I don't know.
Yeah, but what is, sorry to interrupt you, Mike, but I mean, what is right-wing these days? I mean, they did a study recently that I know studies, I always take them with a grain of salt, but I still found it interesting. So in the United States, that the position of the average Republican has not changed since 1988. Right? It's not that the right became more right-wing, it is that the left became significantly more left-wing. And in the UK, let's be completely honest, I think the position of most British people has been established in 1968 by Enoch Powell. That, I would say, has been the middle ground for most British people for most of their lifetime. Nothing that happened after 1968 in the realm, particularly of migration, was ever put to the vote for the British people, because every government that came in made the promise of restricting immigration because they knew this is where the center of the country was. But they always ended up doing the exact opposite. And by the way, that includes Labour and the Tories and all the other smaller parties that exist.
Yeah, I mean, the Labour government have said repeatedly that they want to stop the boats, that they want to smash the gangs. It turns out that only in the past 2 days, 541 migrants have come illegally across the channel, which is quite a big number considering the weather we've got at the moment.
But it's not just the boats, right? I mean, I'm sure that many of your viewers follow this one case that's currently making the news again. I'm sorry if I always use the United States, but I think it's a nice highlight about this gentleman from Ireland who is now being deported. And everyone's, oh my God, he has been in the United States for 20 years. He started a business. He's married to an American. Yes, all of this is true, but he came to the United States, I think like 15 years ago or 19 years ago in 2009. So around 17 years ago on a tourist visa. And he never left. He broke the law. Right?
Yeah.
The same in the UK. If you come to the UK as a student and you finish your studies and then you don't leave, you should be deported. I think the small boats issue is a big issue, but it goes beyond that. There are too many people, too many individuals who can game the system by finding some excuse why actually immigration law doesn't apply to them. I do not care. I don't care if they have a business. I don't care if they're married. I know this sounds cold-hearted. I don't care if they have children. They should have thought about this before. I cannot go into a country, say, I'm going to stay here, even though I'm not allowed to. And then when they catch me, I say, but look what I've done the last 15 years. This is like me, Mike, setting up shop in your basement, and you don't find out for 20 years. And then you say, Ralph, have you been living in my basement for 20 years? You can do this. And then I say, yeah, but Mike, look what I did. Like, I ran a great shop out of your basement. You would still say, that's awesome, but it's my basement. And it's the same thing here. This is not the country, this whole rhetoric that apparently illegal immigrants are building our countries. I'm sick of it. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. Well, I've got this book here. You might want to get your hands on it. It's been published by the New Culture Forum. It's called Immigration, and it's got a whole bunch of chapters in here written by a lot of people that you'll know. Alp Mehmet from Migration Advisory Service, Conor Tomlinson, William Clouston, Philip Kisley, Amy Gallagher. It's all basically debunking all of the things that we've been told for years and years and years about how, we can't run the NHS without immigrants. We must have high levels of immigration in order to run the economy. All complete and utter nonsense, right? Because you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right to say that the biggest problem to a large extent was people coming into this country on visas, student visas or on work visas, and then just overstaying.
Yeah, and it has been. Listen, many of the people you mentioned, Connor is a friend of mine. I like them very, very much. But at the end of the day, and Connor knows this as an example, but great books and great articles alone will not save us. At some point, it's also going to be up to the people themselves. Yes. This is, if I look at the polls in the UK, I'm sorry, and by the way, it's the same in Austria. I'm just saying this for the UK because your viewers are mostly from the United Kingdom. But I'm still surprised how many people are apparently still willing to give their votes to the quote-unquote Uni-Party who is responsible for all of this. And again, it's the same in Austria. It's the same in Germany. I do not understand this. So you take every poll, 70%, 85%, 69%, are dissatisfied with pretty much every direction which our countries are going. And then you have an election, and the so-called far right, whatever you want to call it, they barely make it. If they get 30%, if they get 35%, that's all they get. So I must assume that at least 70% are still satisfied or not willing to change course or direction.
Right. Or they don't really know enough about what the people are saying that they will, as you say, that they will do. I think they've also lost, a large portion of people in this country have completely lost faith in all politics and in all politicians, and they don't really believe a word they say. And I think that's part of the problem as well. There's a kind of antipathy, if you like. They don't believe that they'll do anything.
Well, yes, and there is, I always say that there is, that we are in the foothills of a revolution. But I would go a step further and say we are already in a revolution, but it's not a revolution from the bottom against the top. It's a revolution from the top against the bottom. Because even though 70% to appear to continuously vote for a continuation of failed policies, I think one of the reasons is because we are under a constant barrage of, the Guardian-like reporting that is a form of propaganda / brainwashing. I mean, this is people like to get along. Me too. Like you and I, Mike, we have made a little bit out of a business of being contrarians. So we can afford to go against the mainstream. But there are people who have regular jobs who work, as civil servants and so on and so on and so on. It's not as easy for them to do this. So in a sense, our obligation is, right, to give those a voice who are too afraid and who are intimidated against speaking out, and tell them, you guys have been, your gut feeling, and this is always my message to the British people, your gut feeling is correct. And whoever tells you that it's not, don't believe them. Your gut feeling has been correct in the past, it's correct in the present, and it's probably also going to be correct in the future. But at some point, you have to vote accordingly.
Yes. The question, I suppose, is how much of this is irreversible, and we're too late, as you say. I mean, if the MEPs are talking about offshoring illegal migrants or migrants of any kind somewhere out of Europe, the damage has already been done, hasn't it?
Well, you can reverse everything. I always compare it to, let's imagine, Mike, you go to the doctor. And the doctor says, you know what? You have a very serious illness in an early stage.
Yeah.
And he just gives you an aspirin. And then you come back the next time and he says, you know what? The illness increased. It got worse. It spread. And he still only gives you an aspirin when, in fact, you would already need chemotherapy and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And this is precisely the situation we're in. If we don't do anything now, but we do something 10 years down the road, things will get even more ugly. I mean, you see this once again in the United States. ICE would not have to be as brutal as they are. And you're right, they also make mistakes, but in a general sense, if the situation would not have occurred in the first place, the more illegal immigrants you have in your country, or the more people that overstay their visas you have in your country, and for the longer they stay, the harder it will be to remove them. Of course, it is a terrible decision to make for a government to take a person that has been in the UK for 20 years and has a family and say you have to go. But the point is, they should not even have been in the country for 20 years. So we create the problem that we then claim, or the political establishment creates a problem that then 20 years later they claim they can no longer solve.
Yeah, exactly right. Let's have a quick word about Iran, because I noticed you were talking about that this week. I think there's a meeting today between Trump and Netanyahu in the White House. And apparently after one of these meetings a couple of years ago, that was when, or actually it was more than a couple of years ago, it was Trump's first term. Trump kind of acted and basically tore up the nuclear agreement with Iran. So there's a lot of people thinking that after this meeting today, something might happen.
Yeah, maybe. And I mean, right, listen, what I always find interesting about all these debates, and I said the same on your show regarding Greenland, when we talk about all kinds of territory in our daily political debates, the Donbass, and what's happening in Iran, what's happening in the Middle East, who's ruling Syria, who's ruling which part of Syria, who's having Greenland. But to be quite honest, I follow it. I think it's interesting. People shall stay informed because these things matter. But overall, the territory I'm interested in is the suburbs of London, right? Or metropolitan London, is Vienna, is Berlin. So I find it very odd that I support the people who have been killed in Iran. It's very tragic. If they have a revolution, they have my fullest support. But overall, I'm just not that worried who's going to govern Iran 20 years down the road. I'm more worried who's going to govern the UK, Austria, and other European countries 20 years down the road. And the big irony is, if the Iranians have a revolution, they will move from an Islamic government to a non-Islamic government, whereas in more and more parts of Europe, it seems we are moving from non-Islamic governments to Islamic governments.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why the United Arab Emirates are no longer financing their students to study in the UK because they are terrified that they come back as radicalized Islamists.
Yeah, well, we've got a 13-year-old currently being held on a terror charge after stabbing two
Madness.
boys in a school shouting Allahu Akbar. But, my other thought about that, though, is that if Iran does become a non-Islamic state, it might be beneficial to Western Europe because all the people who have come here from Iran could go back.
Well, the big irony is of all the migration we had in the past years, on average, and I think it's probably similar in the UK, but I only know it for Germany and Austria, Iranians or Persians or whatever you want to call them tend to be very well integrated. I mean, Persia or Iran is a difficult case. It's a little bit more, even though the latter one is even more difficult, like Turkey, because these are countries and civilizations that have a very long history. Right, so in the case of Iranians, there was always more than Islam. So I think this is different than with migration, let's say, from Syria, Somalia, or other places. So this is why, if of all the people we want to remigrate, if you want to use the terms, I have to be quite honest, the Iranians are not at the top of my list. And I think it's the same in the UK as well. So there are many groups which I think are significantly more problematic than the Iranians.
Yes, no, I think you're probably right. As ever, Ralph, lots and lots of people have got great things to say. They think you should be Prime Minister. They think you should be a government advisor. They say you talk an awful lot of sense. We can't let you go without the usual thing. We should have Ralph on every day, says Lord Viking. He said, call the segment, I'll be back. They want to hear you say it.
Well, Mike, it depends on you, but I hope I'll be back very soon.
Brilliant. Great to see you. Ralph Schulhammer there. Thank you very much indeed, all the way from Austria. Well, it's 9:29 already. And what we haven't done, I suppose, is have Heron of the Day, Pooch. I think we had a couple yesterday. Yeah, one from Dallas, Nash, snapped by an American friend in Florida in contention for Heron of the Day. That's on the right-hand side. That's a sort of a sculpture, if you like. Oh, is it it is a postbox. So it is. Wow. We're going to have postbox time tomorrow, I think, aren't we? Because we've got some post coming our way. Is it worth putting up the address, or is that too complicated? On the left-hand side from Aidan, that is an image of a grey heron, which is the heron you're most likely to see in the UK. And I think that's similar to the one that I saw originally. You know, when the story started, it was basically a heron sitting on a fence outside of where I live, near the River Thames. And that was almost exactly what he looked like. So I think that's the beginning of the whole heron scenario. Now, there's our final address there, Suite 19.6, Exhibition House, Addison Bridge Place, London W14 8XP. We'll have a look in the mailbag tomorrow. And the segment is going to be called What's in Mike's Sack, I think you'll find. Which has been an idea coming from Charlotte. Thank you, Charlotte, for that. So anyway, Super Chats have been great today. One from Jason. Ralph should be a government advisor. He speaks an awful lot of sense. Thank you for that, Jason. Keep sending those Super Chats in and we will keep revealing them to you. We'll keep giving you a name check as well. Meanwhile, of course, we'll be back tomorrow from 7. It's already Thursday tomorrow, which is incredible. 9:31 is the time. We'll be doing Plonk of the Week, we'll be doing Plank of the Week, we'll be doing the show from 7 to 9:30. Thank you very much indeed for joining us all. We'll see you then.
Remember, despite all of the others out there, it's always the others. Don't be a plank.